Nothing happened.
Oh, is your phone on silent?
Is my what? My phone?
I just thought about that. So is yours on silent?
We're live now, but we're not acting like it.
Well, there's still
go.
0 viewers, so that's okay.
Yeah, we can always edit the beginning.
Yes.
What number is this?
This is 42. Oh, I'm definitely talking to my beer and not the microphone.
There you go.
So that's great.
That's the start. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us from the ground up, number 42 with Eric Burke. Real quick, I want to talk about, we just updated our website. It would be sweet if you went over and visited portcitypythons.com. We have shirts out. We have a bunch of new stuff.
Finally, it doesn't say we sell ball pythons still.
And for some reason, we couldn't get the code to change to where it said, for some reason, it always just said selling quality ball pythons. And I could never figure out how to change it because I'm not a programmer and I'm fucking stupid, apparently. And the shirts, by the way, you may be asking yourself, like, hey, what sweatshop were they made at?
Okay.
And I'm like, hey, bro, these are non-sweatshop. Fair labor shirts, man. And also you're like, that sounds really expensive and bad for the environment. And it's actually all solar panel powered. And
because we're so earth conscious over really here, you know, running a space heater 24 hours a day for a closet. We're so earth conscious.
Yeah, all these snake
balancing it out. You're balancing it out.
Yeah. I just need to keep a room in my house 80 degrees when it's 30 out. I mean, but
so good for the environment.
Whatever. But anyway, I'm fucking hitting my own headphones. We have Eric here. Eric from EB Morelia, and of course, all you guys know Morelia Python Radio. Oh, Eric, first of all, thank you so much for being here. And tell us a little bit about your business.
Wow. So I've always been in the snakes since I was a little kid. Typical story. My first jumping into pythons was a Burmese python when I was 10, I think. Probably not the best pet to get when you're 10, but I fell in love with them.
Your parents, was that easy to convince them of that?
Well, my dad is, he was big time in the reptile, so he kept everything from crocodilians to venomous to pythons to, I mean, you name it, he had it. And I was into it for a while, then I got out of it when I think I turned like maybe 15. I got into guitar and forgot all about snakes.
Guitar can get you girls. Snakes don't.
Damn, that was my thought too. And I was not gonna say that because I thought it was wrong. But
yeah.
But so, I mean, I did the same thing.
Yeah. And I got out until I was about 30, and I got a house and all that stuff and settled down. And I figured it was time to get back in. It was crazy when I got back in because I never knew what, like I went to the NARBC show in, it was actually in Philadelphia, and there was like het this and het that. And I'm like, what the hell does het mean? What is this? You know, because when I was first in it, there was no such thing. Well, there was, but nobody cared about morphs and stuff. But I don't know. I just started keeping snakes and whatnot. And I don't know, pythons, my goal was to keep and breed as many species of pythons as I could. For a while, I got derailed and kind of just focused on carpet pythons, which is probably the majority of my collection. And that's where EB Morelia came from. I don't know, everybody was doing ball pythons or royal pythons. Sorry, Bill. And I wanted to do something different, and carpet pythons seemed to be the hardiest python that I ever kept. They're just bulletproof. I mean, you have to be pretty bad to kill a carpet python. And I don't know. I saw Bullwinkle. I don't know if you remember that from Anthony Caponetto, and that just kind of did it for me. And then I just went down that road. Recently, though, I have started to diversify a bit.
You are doing what scares the fuck out of me, and you're collecting so many different species. So how many species are you at now, and how many species of python are there?
I'm at 32, and I think there's 53 species of python.
Whoa.
And then next year when new shit comes out, and then there'll be 66 species of python, split everything up. So you're going to be fucked.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's like that never-ending chase, you know. But.
Yeah. So are you gonna go with attention to like, I don't know a python example, but like with colubrids, sometimes we'll get subspecies that eventually become species. And how particular are you getting with it?
So scrubs are a good example of this. I probably get some backlash for saying this, but like chondros or green trees, you know, when they first came out, everybody was just trying to breed them. So they're breeding northerns and southerns, but they're two different species. So in reality, that's a hybrid, if you want to look at it that way. And you know, I believe that that same thing applies. I'm looking at my scrub python across the room right now. So it's but
looking at you too.
yeah. But I think the same thing probably applies to scrub pythons. So I keep the northerns separate than the southerns, and I have a pair of northerns, a pair of southerns, and a pair of highlands, and I'm just going to keep them separate.
So you can call yourself a splitter among people. You're not mixing bredli with jungles and all that stuff.
I'm not against that. I mean,
yeah.
I have a saying on my show. I say, "You do you, boo." You know, you do. But you know, I don't think. I think if people worried about what they do and not worried about what other people do, then I don't know. It would be a much better hobby, in my opinion. You know. But
yeah.
But will that ever happen?
It never happens in any group.
I mean, there's millions of Facebook groups dedicated to worrying about what everyone else is doing. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everyone's too worried about calling out everyone else instead of worrying about their own shit. But I mean, as far as keeping, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So as far as keeping all the different species of pythons, how do you plan on maybe separating things or keeping things together? As far as I know, I keep my carpets maybe 85, 86 degrees when you may keep a ball python. 90, you may keep a blood. 83, you know, all these different ways of keeping. How do you plan on doing that?
Okay, so I have 3 rooms. Right now I'm in my cold room. So this is, I guess it's probably like maybe 65 ambient, maybe. And I keep my diamond pythons in here, bredli, my popwins in here, my moluccans in here. What else? So, and you know, it's just keeping this room cool and putting basking spots, whereas in my other room it's just basically 83 degrees ambient temperature with the space heater, and then I'm building another room for the bigger snakes, which will be a little bit warmer. So
jeez. We're like scrounging between a closet and one room, and he just has 3 different rooms he's working with.
So we gotta build towards. But as far as are you keeping hot spots on everything? Are you running some things ambient or?
I run ball pythons ambient. A lot of my baby carpets I keep ambient. Chondros I keep ambient. What else? Trying to think. The short tails, I keep them ambient too. But other than that, most stuff has a hot spot. But I think we keep snakes too warm.
Yeah.
And I usually shoot for 85 hot spot is where that happy spot is. Now with the bigger snakes like retics, I'm kind of new to keeping retics, and I've heard some people say to keep them warmer, some people say to keep them cooler. So I don't know. I'll kind of watch the snake and see how it goes. You know.
Yeah. At some point, you gotta like. It's not everything's written down. Not everyone's keeping in the same place. As far as I changed husbandry when I was in Colorado to now in Texas. So I think people need to always be flexible and never like be in one camp or another as far as, you know, heat and humidity and all that shit goes.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I learned doing the show, talking to so many different people was like, you know, I think the biggest mistake that people make when they're getting into any species is they look up a care sheet online. And then they think that, you know, it's like they're baking a cake or something. It's like, no, you're not baking a cake, you know, you're keeping something alive. And I think that people don't know how to read their snakes and, you know, they're not like paying attention to what they're doing. Like if you have a hot spot and the snake moves over to the cool side and it's always on the cool side, or like trying to push away, like it's trying to get away from that hot spot, then you're probably keeping it too warm. So you adjust it down a little bit. And then if you see it basking all the time, then, you know, that would be the opposite issue. So maybe you have to raise the temperature a little bit, you know? So that's kind of how I do it.
And what exact temperature are you keeping? Say, I'm just worried. I'm just wondering for my own.
Yeah, this isn't even about the podcast. This is just about him, like just wanting to pick your brain for his own sake.
So like, what do you mean? What species or?
Ambience for maybe you're keeping your chondros, or are you keeping the chondros and ball pythons?
You just went really dark.
Yeah, hold on one sec.
You gotta keep that photo period down in the winter.
Yeah. I forgot to turn the photo period on for a little bit longer. My fault. So basically I'll use my regular room, my main room. The ambient temp usually is somewhere between 80 and 82. Probably sometimes it spikes up to 84. And my hot spots are 85. Now, I kind of like I put cooler species, you know, things that maybe needed a little bit cooler, not as hot on the bottom. And, you know, things like Darwins and IJs, I keep at the top. Okay. I kind of follow it like IJs, Darwins, jungles, coastals, inlands, breadlie, if they were in there. So
almost north to south besides the breadlie.
Basically.
Or south to north or north.
Yeah.
I don't know what side of the equator I'm on. But as far as feeding, there's a few different ideas. Big meals less often, just size of the body meal. What do you do?
I believe in cycle feeding. I think that I think that they respond to that. I think in nature, cycles are how it works. You know, I think it works for feeding as well. Now, the downside to doing that is like when I cool down, I don't feed anything. So basically from December until March, I don't feed anything. Everything from adults to babies. I don't feed nothing. Now, my babies take a little longer to mature, but I think it makes for a healthier animal overall, in my experience. So as far as size of meal, I would say it's average, you know, size of snake. I don't feed anything crazy, you know, like. I started messing around with Reptilinks and like trying to vary up the diet. I've had some pretty good success with it. I try to feed them like some, you know, I might feed them African soft furs or quail, rats, mice, you know, that kind of thing. So
just switch it up if you can.
Yeah, I mean, if we ate chocolate bars every day for the rest of your life, you probably would survive, but it's not healthy, you know? So, you know, you kind of have to, I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe the generation before us set the bar at things surviving. Maybe we should, you know, go a little bit higher and start making things thrive maybe more as much as we can.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I talk to like people a lot, and like when you're talking to like old school guys, and you know they've done something for so long and it works. Even Owen, when I talk to Owen, like Owen's he's the guy that does the podcast with me. But
are you calling him old school? Are you calling him old right now? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm older than him.
He's older than him.
Yeah, but like they get in this routine and it works for them, and they never want to try to optimize it. So like if you are like doing this routine and it works, but you may not get all your females to breed, or you may get some slugs, or you may get retained eggs or whatever, they just chalk it up to, I'm not saying that Owen does this all the time.
Whatever.
But, you know, they just chalk it up to, oh yeah, well that's just how it happens.
Shit happens. That's how, yeah.
And it does, but like is part of that, maybe we could, you know, give better nutrition to that. Like it seems like with lizards and monitors and stuff like that, like they have that stuff dialed in. But when it comes to snakes, it's just like, all right, well, what does it need to survive? And that's it. You know, then we stop. So
I feel like people try a little bit harder, maybe because the intellect of a monitor or something is higher than your snake. You can't really take as many cues visually, I guess, off a snake in comparison to a monitor.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe you feel worse treating a monitor badly than a fucking snake. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of feeding, even though this is totally off topic, so in the live stream there's a chat going, and in the future we should definitely tell them how to pull it up, because they can pull it up too. He would just have to have the same thing up we have, just like they can all see it. He just would have to pull it up. But there's a chat going on in the YouTube. He just needs to go to watch the thing. And Evan said, I need you to ask him which queso he preferred, the regular or spicy, so I know for future reference.
Well, Evan, sorry to say, I did not eat the queso. That was Mr. McIntyre that ate the queso. I'm not a queso fan, so.
Well, he's from Philly, so just put some cheese whiz in the fucking bowl and.
Yeah, right.
Wait, is this a Carpet Fest reference? How did I know?
Also, Evan's making fun of your like insurance salesman headset.
No, I like them. He said it's high
I'm just saying it was Evan.
But then he doesn't have to hold these things like we do. That's
I need freedom, man. I need freedom to move around.
I'm a maniac.
I might start jogging in the middle of this thing or something.
But yeah, he's not connected.
Sometimes I just lose track of what the fuck I'm talking about.
And then someone else said something.
You're getting us off track.
I'm just getting finished with these so we can get back. Someone said something about Meatloaf. I don't know if they're talking about the person Meatloaf.
He was talking about that he looks like the singer Meatloaf.
Oh shit!
It's fucking funny. I don't know if it's true, but it's definitely funny.
Whatever. That's why I don't. That's why I don't do a YouTube podcast.
Everyone on the show gets a nickname, and Ryan Sullivan's Donkey. So
Ryan's is the worst.
You can only go up.
Awesome.
Okay, now we can go back to topic.
So, I'm trying to get an idea of how many animals you have. What are your numbers like? Well, I know you probably don't have a number, but I mean. Ballpark it.
Maybe 220.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, I knew you would be
How
surprised.
do you live a normal life?
That is a good question.
I don't know. How do you do life with that?
I'm very regimented, let's say, I guess, you know.
What systems are in place? How does it work exactly?
So I divide my room up into sections, and every day I do a section. You know, I'll take this set. So it's basically 4 days that, you know, just in there looking at taking care of things, and then I'll spot clean or whatever. And then 2 days I spend on, maybe sometimes 3 days on the podcast. So that's pretty much the week.
Yeah, there's your life right there.
Yeah.
So you're either cleaning or feeding, or, you know, everything has its own day. Each section has its own day of everything.
Yeah. So I like to feed. I will feed a rack. So I'll feed the rack before, or the section before, and then I'll clean the section that I fed the day before. Does that make sense? Like,
yes, like a succession thing.
Yeah. So then that way, if something doesn't feed, then I pull it out or whatever. But I feed.
That makes sense. So. Yeah, I mean, that's really something that I need to do, as far as like, I'm just willy-nilly. When something smells, or, you know, every Monday I clean, but that's the one thing that I have a day for. Otherwise, man, I may forget to feed a carpet for like 3 weeks. I mean, I purposefully don't feed them a lot.
Right.
But I'll be like, when's the last time? Maybe a month. And then I'm like, cool. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I
do medium wrap like once a month, or, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a feeding schedule per se. Like, I don't like every Tuesday I feed this, and you know what I mean? That's just like, I usually watch, you know, if they're cruising around, then I feed them, you know. Okay. Again, going back to paying attention to your snakes.
Yeah.
I feel like if you did that for your carpets, you'd be feeding.
Well, now just all the males are going crazy.
They're just cruising 24/7.
And then the olive python's just always hungry. So it's like some things are, it's hard.
How cool are they, man? I mean,
olive pythons?
Oh my gosh, they're like such a badass snake. So underrated, in my opinion.
How many olives do you have? And do you have?
I just have a pair, het albino olives.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, just a pair of het albino.
Like that's definitely a step above. Like,
yeah, they're pretty cool. I got I got them from Nick Mutton. Nick Mutton produced those. So.
The Godfather. That's what we've named him.
Yeah, Nick was. I was afraid of Nick back in the early days because he was like I don't know if you remember Morelia Pythons forum, but like his avatar on Morelia Pythons forum was some guy just punching somebody in the face. I was like, wow, this guy's insane. And
labeled what are those, tire kicker underneath?
Yeah,
just punching him in the face.
And he was like, I tried contacting him because way back in the day I wanted to get some bredli, and I'm a fan of, find out who has the best of whatever you're looking for and get it from that person, So Everybody talked about Nick's bredli, so I contacted him, and he's one of these guys. He loves talking on the phone. My God, you get on the phone with him, and it's like, yeah, you're there for like 4 hours or so, and he doesn't want to text you or like anything like that. But
yeah.
So we got to talking, and actually we became pretty good friends because me and him are the same age, and he kind of took me under his wing and kind of like, taught me the ways. He's my Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will,
So he's a godfather. He's a godson.
Yeah. Yeah. So many Morelia people just from like Morelia Python Radio from Carpet Fist and stuff like that. And one day Melissa was just like, who's this guy that you're all gay for? And I was like, oh, you mean Nick Mutton? The guy who comes up in every fucking show somehow.
Yeah, same with us too. I mean, it's always a reference to Nick, but
for anything, like it's just all the time. Nick Mutton. Oh, Nick Mutton did this. Oh, this.
But I want to stay in the genus of Liasis, which is another one of my favorite snakes, is water pythons.
Yes, I have a pair of Queensland water pythons that were produced by Ryan Young. Another super underrated snake. Yellow belly, the iridescence. I mean, it's just insane. If you're keeping carpets or anything like that, you should have a tub or whatever, 41 quart tub, and put some water pythons in there and show them some love.
I definitely want more. I really like ours. It's one of our
I guess that's something to talk about. Ours is really, really cool because I've made it really, really cool.
Okay.
How are yours?
You mean as far as like temperament and stuff? No, mine's are chill.
By the tub. Oh, okay.
Yeah, mine's are chill. Now, Owen had this one, like you couldn't even go anywhere near the cage without, that's what you'd be like, holy shit. What the hell? So,
yeah.
But
I mean, I noticed that my olive and my water, for the first maybe 6 months or so, they were that anywhere near the tub. They were crazy.
Yeah. So no, I haven't noticed that. Maclots, they're pretty chill, and Savus, they're pretty chill too. I don't really have.
I forget ours is even in there half the time. Like the water's under the hide, under the newspaper, and the olive's just pushing it or pushing the newspaper. Like
Although I just it used to be a little bit different when it was a baby, not very approachable, and I rebuilt my rack when I moved to Colorado. I flat packed all the racks and shit and put all the snakes in bags and did all that stuff.
Right.
And then I guess when I put it together, the space in between the tub and the top of the rack was a little bit bigger than it was before.
Okay.
So I had to pee in the middle of the night, and I put the dog's water bowl in the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. As I'm walking by, just putting the light on, something fucking about to bites me in the ankle, and it's a water python hanging out in the water bowl, just fucking hanging out.
Surprise!
So it was really nice, and it was young. Yeah, but I'm glad I found that one.
Yeah. Yeah, they're cool snakes, man. Cool snakes for sure.
Have you ever bred them?
I have not yet. No, no.
Are you going to?
Yes, eventually. Yes.
You hope so. He doesn't have a pair for no reason.
Fingers crossed. You know. I don't know.
So as far as breeding, where are you right now this season, going into the season? Are you mostly carpets? Are you different python species? What do you got going?
So this season I am I may breed children's pythons, but other than that, it's pretty much all carpets. There's a couple new species, or I should say subspecies on that list that might get crossed off. Darwins, I've never bred them before. I have.
Are those all het albino?
No, actually, the pair that I have was from Terry Phillip, and they are not het albino, so they are unrelated to the albino line. They're
good, because they need some love, because those animals are really attractive. I don't know why people don't. The albino, like, kind of.
I know nothing about them.
Yeah. You know, there's so much potential there, breeding wise, color. I mean, that's the same thing. I love IJs. I think they're one of the coolest carpets. They have that big, beefy head, and, like, you know, as compared to their body, and there's so much breeding potential. Everybody focuses on jungles, which is cool. I love jungles too, but nobody pays attention to that other stuff, and that's kind of like what I'm trying to do, is selectively breed that stuff to. I mean, I have IJs that would blow people's minds. Even Owen is notorious for not liking IJs on the show, and, like, he came over the other day, and I opened up a tub, and he was like, "What the hell is that?" And I was like, "An IJ," and he said, "If you say this on the show that I like that, I will kill you." I just did. So.
Now, I mean, from an IJ perspective, isn't the best looking IJ gonna look like a mediocre jungle as far as yellow goes?
No.
What are you trying to breed into the IJs?
So, oh my gosh, there's so many different. I mean, I have a melanistic project. That's poison ivy. I stumbled across this pretty much black, except for the face is white. It almost looks like a white lip python. And I'm trying to prove that out to see if that's something. They're probably breed in 2019. I held back the whole clutch. I didn't sell any of them, but pretty much I think it works. My guess would be that it works like the IMG gene in boas, because they just keep gaining melanin and gaining melanin. So that's something completely different. There's a few people out there that are working with, like, a melanistic project type IJ project. As far as other ones, I have ones that are called chocolate, where it's like, you know, very reduced, almost like a pinstripe type of pattern, which would be like the yellow or the lighter color. And then everything else is kind of like that. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, what would it be? It's like a nice brown. That's why I call it chocolate. Yeah, like, I don't know. It's a really cool look.
Not just a clever name. It looks like chocolate. Yeah. You see some of these, like, wine maroony colors, like dark, rich colors in the IJs with some yellows.
Well, the thing with jungles is that you have a 2-color palette. You have black and you have yellow. With IJs, you have 4 colors to work with that you can go in any direction. Like, you could selectively breed for, you know, like the GQ line is high yellow, high contrast. I have some that, like, it's like on the saddle, it kind of like slowly fades into this orange chestnutty color, and, like, they're just really cool. Very, very underrated. But give me about 6 years, man, and I'll blow people's minds with IJs. Yeah.
So if anyone doesn't know, IMG stands for increasing melanin genes. So I saw you posted.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I just shook my head.
Posted a picture about a year ago or something of poison ivy's offspring, and it seems that, like, the pattern on the head was maybe getting more blackening and stuff like that. Haven't seen you post anything else other than that. Are they still getting more and more black, or?
Yes. It's difficult to capture on. I'm getting better with photography as, you know, the years go by, but it's definitely difficult to capture in a picture. But what happens is every time it's shed, like, the saddles seem to shrink and they get more and more melanin. And if you look at it, like it has like this, like think of a ghost ball python, and like it has like this haze to it that just I don't know how to explain it, but like you're right, the head stamp is just getting darker and darker, where like your typical jungle skull and crossbone look has disappeared, and it's just a solid black head. Some more so than others, but there's about 4 of them in there that are probably will look just like her when they're adults.
Very cool. So, at least you're working with something that maybe even if you have to polygenically make a fully black IJ, you think you have the palate to make that?
I think so. Selective breeding, if it's not a gene, or I guess it would be a bunch of genes or whatever, however you get there. Some way, somehow, I'm going to make a melanistic IJ.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit of your stumbling point, I guess, from poison ivy died, correct?
Yes.
So what happened there, and where do you go forward with the project from there?
Well, so what had happened with her is she ovulated out of season, which was really weird. I've never seen that with a carpet. And I was watching her, and she looked like she was going to pop, and she had eggs in her, and she just went on and on and on, and nothing was happening. So I took her to the vet, and he verified that there was eggs in there. He gave her some kind of I can't remember what the name of the medicine was, but he gave her something to help her pass, the eggs.
To induce labor or whatever with the snakes.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but so basically that night I took her home, and then she died. So I don't know if it was
the medicine or trying to pass them.
She had a reaction, or if something tore when she was,
even the added stress of moving her out, and maybe she was on the door before that, and it just put it over the edge with going to the vet and everything like that.
Yeah, could be.
She did mother a clutch before that, then.
Yes. So the year before that, she gave me a clutch of, I have 10 babies from her. So
did you use any caution with who you paired up with her, as far as like from my perspective, if I had the access to maybe a wild caught or something, that would be a good way to make sure that it's her carrying the gene and whatnot, if you know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. So what I did is I used a GQ outcross, and the reason that I went GQ is because it was very light with very little black. So I figured if I breed this animal to her, rather than breed a higher black animal to that animal to her, then you really won't know what's going on, because is it the sire or is it the dam? Like, which one caused this? So I went completely opposite of her, and that's how. I think that's probably why I got the results I got. So.
Which is kind of weird. So it must be some type of weird dominant gene.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. But hopefully next year I'll be able. That clutch was male heavy, so which is kind of good. I have 2 females, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna breed one of those males to I got wild stuff now, so I'm gonna breed her to a wild caught IJ, and then I'm gonna breed 2 siblings together to see what happens. So,
but you're seeing increased melanin in all of them, not just 50% of them or something like that, or?
Yes, yeah, and some of them look exantic looking. It's kind of weird, and I guess I should probably do a video on it or something so I can show them so people can see. But
I wasn't sure if you were purposefully not trying to show them, or if that question was going to give anything away, or
it's like one of those things. Like before I know what's going on, you hear the people from Facebook, "Well, you're saying that it's genetic," and blah, blah. I just don't feel like dealing with that bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't want to call it too early, and
yeah. I don't want to hear people, like, if I post it up, then I get bombarded with messages about wanting to buy. When are you going to breed? And I don't have any answers for people. So I'm not, that's kind of why I shy away from posting it up.
So you can take your time without being pestered by everyone, basically.
Yeah, I want to have answers for people when they ask, like,
Yeah.
hey, check out this new gene in carpet pythons, or whatever. But we'll
Right.
see.
Sorry. Someone asked if you think it was Pitocin that induced the labor, because that's what they use on humans. They're wondering if you think it was the same.
Oh God, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't.
That sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. I can't remember.
I don't know how much crossover there is between.
No, I don't think
human medicine.
Dog medicine sometimes with snakes. I don't know about human medicine, but
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Labor's labor. It's coming out.
None of us have kids, though, right?
Well, the person who asked them is, I know Pitocin is what they give, so that's what they give humans to induce labor. So it doesn't matter if they have kids, because
I don't know. I keep snakes, not humans.
And then someone said, what was the other question? This is more like a comment. They were saying that and I don't know what it was y'all were talking about, but they said by the time they are 3 to 4 years, they look like an IMG. It just takes time for them to darken.
They're saying that boas usually take 3 to 4 years, which may be different because maybe IJs mature a little bit faster than boas or vice versa. But he's saying that, that 3 or 4 year mark.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows the history of poison ivy. So she was produced by Jake Milbrat, and what he did is he imported these 2 wild caught IJs that were very melanistic. Not as much as her, but they were melanistic. And he bred them together, and he thought he was going to get these, beautiful black carpet pythons, and he didn't. They were all normal. So it was like, screw this shit, and he sold them all. And he sold them to this guy, and he had her for a while, and he bred her to a jag in her first clutch, which just was
that makes sense.
I'm like, what are you doing, man? So he got out of it, and he sold her. He knew that I love that snake, so he called me up and sold her to me. And Jake saw me post a picture of her and asked where he got it from, so I was able to track it back, and sure enough, he produced her, and couldn't believe that he sold the clutch. So
so they all increased melanin after that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of them out there that look just like poison ivy, and I can't prove it, but I believe that they're all from the same clutch.
Dang.
So,
because I was gonna say, if none of them ended up being melanin, then you're just totally fucked as far as genetics go. You would never know. But
yeah,
if they're all, so maybe poison ivy was a super or something, and they're all increased melanin now, or
yeah, could be. I don't know.
I mean, it would be kind of unlikely, but
Evan said Kurt Finnegan.
That's who it was. Yes.
Oh, he said he had 2 of her offspring, and then Jeff Back owns a jag from her.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Jeff was trying to sell that jag. But it's kind of weird because, like, you want a sibling of or an offspring from poison ivy or something like that. You don't want the jag. And well, no, else. But you don't want it to be a jag. That kind of totally defeats
purpose.
The whole project.
Yeah, you can't ever back it out. You can always add jag in later, but you can't now.
Just go and remove that.
But everyone can do what they want, like you said earlier. So I mean, do whatever you want.
We can question. They can still do it, but we can question. We can just question why they did that.
I mean, like, I guess when it comes to that stuff, like I said, I'm not anti-cross or morph or hybrid or anything like that. But like, I do like, the base species and stuff. And like, I think that with all the morphs and stuff, what has happened is nobody has focused on keeping certain lineages going or certain, localities and all that kind of stuff, because they're just crossing it into everything, and then that gets lost and you can't ever get it again. It's not like I can call up my buddies in Australia and ask me to ship me a box of new carpet pythons, new blood or something like that.
You're gonna have to call Germany first, and then Germany's gonna have to call someone in Australia, and then they're gonna have to contact them. It's the whole fucking thing,
Or you can just go with some really loose pants. I guess maybe not at this point. The airports are too advanced, but get someone with their own private plane.
It all comes here eventually. I mean, we're seeing all these northern albino blue tongues come out of fucking nowhere. Like,
Yeah,
who
it
knows
does.
where that came from? But it all kind of comes over here. But exanthic coastals, right?
Yeah, well, I actually I found out that I bought a hypo coastal, and
That's what I was talking about.
it
Yeah,
comes into the States tomorrow. So
from UK pythons.
yeah, yeah,
From the dark clouds.
yeah.
Wait, what is that in reference to?
Do you? Because from what I believe, hypo was only in Australia, correct?
Correct.
Or was it? Okay. I just want to make sure I was.
Yeah, you're correct there.
Funny how that happens, but
Don't
zoos
know.
really like hypo. So.
Yeah. Some of that stuff
But-
did come legally, and some stuff came illegally. So I mean, you know.
I mean, paperwork can make it legal, but in a dishonest legal way, I guess. That's how a lot of this stuff came over, as far as, you know, the olives, all the Australian shit that we're working with, a lot of it was smuggled for zoos. So it's like back in the day, Hank Malt was working for the Philly Zoo and fucking took some olive pythons, all that stuff, you know, and brought it back for the zoo.
Yeah.
The zoo, they were plucking plowshares out of the fucking wild for the zoo.
If you read that book, The Stolen World, it's The Stolen World, they talk
Oh,
about...
yeah. I had to listen to it on audio.
No, that was the
but-
Lizard King. That's
Oh, excuse me.
Same thing, difference.
But they had
Different
Owen
people.
Pelly pythons in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey, but the guy left them in his trunk, and they died.
Oh, okay. All that effort for
Owen
nothing.
Pelly pythons, you know? I mean, wow.
But that's full species, so you need to get the Owen Pelly python for your
Correct.
collection, right? So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make some arrangements.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that.
It'd be
already in the
some
in the
secret
works with
arrangement.
making
I'm
those
not gonna. I'm gonna refrain from comment on that one.
Plead the
Moving
fifth.
on.
Okay. Someone said, what do you think when it's a cover girl to et cetera, jungles, all lineage at that point?
Let me
Wait,
explain a little
okay.
what cover
'Cause
girl
I
is.
don't-
So cover girl is an animal that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may be wrong. It was bred by Casey Lazick, which was on the cover of Reptiles magazine, which is why they call her cover girl. It's a jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, you know, who knows what a pure jungle is, but that's the cover girl explanation.
Yes.
But go on.
We talked about it last week or 2 weeks, but okay. What do you think when it's a cover girl to? That means etc.
To a morph, meaning like a jungle jag or something like
Okay.
that. I think is what
You
they're
said
trying to get
all
at.
lineage at that point. Isn't that more of a morph jungle rather than a pure jungle?
Oh, so he means things that are bred for really high yellows or bright colors, in comparison to just a jungle that you get out of the wild. Obviously, isn't line bred to the point where it's that attractive.
I agree with whoever that is, and I got a lot of stink because of this from jungle people because you know they were giving me a hard time about morphs and stuff. And my thought is this: is that as soon as you start to selectively breed for whatever, high yellow, high
Mhm.
black, high whatever, you have altered that animal, and you're now, I mean, you're using genetics to change the way it looks. How is that different from a morph?
Mhm.
I mean, selective breeding, granted, has more of a, it takes longer, and the results are usually more rewarding, I guess, and you know, which is great. But I don't know. I don't see a difference between morph breeding and selective breeding.
Right. I guess the problem comes with, not to say any names, but Will Bird posted those jungle morphs out there, and there's no telling if anything was ever crossed out or stuff like that. There's just no way to really make sense of that. So what about a situation like that?
So Jason Balin actually produced that jungle. And
Really?
Will Bird bought it at a Hamburg reptile show.
Mhm.
I think it just goes, honestly, I think it goes back to, and I know you're probably going to not like this statement because I've heard you say this before.
Go for it.
Coastals and jungles are basically
They're not the same. Yeah, I'll show you a jungle and then bring me a fucking coastal that looks as nice as it, and then it's the coastal's twice the fucking size, and it's fucking
Well, it depends.
turd
So
brown.
let me
Turd
rephrase
brown.
it.
Okay.
If you take a northern jungle and a northern coastal and you look at them on the level of taxonomy,
Mhm.
you know, they are the same thing.
Well, I'll take locality jungles all day then over.
So that's basically what it is. So a jungle carpet is this. So, you know, over the course of time, Australia's rainforest has shrunk and grown. And when they think that what the jungle is just the jungle carpet is just a variant of the coastal carpet because now it's adapted to a new environment. So as the jungle
but
grows,
the IJ is just the coastal, the jungle / coastal, in changing to a new environment because the island split off, stuff like that. I mean, that's why it looks closer to a jungle than anything else. But obviously, maybe many more thousands of years ahead of it. But couldn't you make that argument for everything?
Well, no, because jungles and coastals still are together in the wild.
Yeah, they still integrate.
Coastals and IJs never met.
You know
what I mean? Even when Australia was attached to Papua New Guinea, there's still the carpets up on the Cape York Peninsula are different than the coastals that are down. And
but I mean, like you said,
you're talking about southern coastals, the Brisbanes, they're those ones that you see the Australian guys posting up. They get big, they are different, they are different than what you're getting, more north.
What's the most north as far as, like, I don't know where,
because you know like so much about Australia.
About Australians. Are there any localities more up north, coastal wise, that you pay attention to in the hobby? Well,
like Rockhamptons.
That's what I was going for. Not Northampton and Rockhampton.
There's a Northampton, Virginia. Maybe
I have a pair of those. I have a pair of Port Douglas. I have a pair of Athertons, and they all kind of look the same. They all have those jungles look like coastals, but in certain spots, Tully Gorge, Palmerston, these areas, they have higher yellow, I guess, and somebody saw that and they started breeding that,
Yeah.
So
I have no idea what these places.
I mean,
he's saying
so big
you're just saying so many cities, or I don't even know.
Coastals range so far within
that
country. That's so fucking
and so
huge.
much in variant. I don't know.
But I mean, it's the same thing as with corn snakes. I keep corn snakes. Miami corn snakes or Keys corn snakes look very different than maybe your more northern corn snakes, maybe your Virginia. Even I've never seen many New Jersey localities, but you're talking about a red corn down in the Keys and then a brown, corn up in New Jersey or something like that. So, and those aren't technically different species. It just depends on what guy decides to make it a new species or subspecies, whether a splitter or a lumper.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
it's all bullshit.
If you look at inland carpets are like 4.95% genetically divergent than the rest of your carpets, but the cutoff was 5% to make it a full species. But yet we're a separate species than chimps, and what are we, like 1% different? You know what I mean? So it's not consistent, and that's the problem with taxonomy.
There's no standard amount of deviation for everyone.
Yes, and that's where the problem comes in with taxonomy. It's like, what camp do you go? Are you a lumper or are you a splitter?
Splitter. Yeah. And I know you have that Bill Love book, right?
Yes.
In the back, he basically shits on all modern herpetoculture and the scientists with the splitters and lumpers. So if you haven't gotten to that part, go to that part.
You just ruined the ending.
Well, no, not the ending. I know. He has ties it all together by saying what's his ideas on the current state of herpetoculture, or even scientific research, all that stuff. So at the end, he kind of puts all that stuff together, talks about HSUS, all that stuff, and then talks about splitters and lumpers as far as scientists. And they're putting so much money into deciding what
a name.
a name basically, so they can put their damn name on it.
Yeah,
That's pretty much all.
pretty much.
Okay. Since I can't contribute anything to this discussion, I'm going to read what
We're
people
going
are
high
saying.
level. We're trying to
I'm
go high
sorry.
level here.
No, this is good. Evan says he no longer likes you, by the way.
Why? Because I
Well,
love Chondros hybrids or jungles? Which one?
Evan keeps dart frogs. He doesn't have anything in this fight.
I
I
know
he was agreeing with you though about the whole
Yeah,
coastal thing. But then someone else said DNA says coastal and jungles are the same.
All right.
And
but
then
my eye says differently, so I just
But
trust
your eye
myself.
says
You know,
differently.
I just
Okay.
go with my gut here.
And then they said IJs are Darwins that broke off. What does that mean?
No, that doesn't make any sense to me. But
No, I disagree with that. But Darwin carpets are, there's a split between where you find Darwin carpets and where you'll find Cape York carpets. And like when we had Daniel Natouche on the show, he was talking about, because he's up there in the Cape York and he studies pythons in the Cape York, and they're different. They just don't know how they're different. I think that IJs and the Cape York carpets are similar, but not Darwin's. And people think they look the same. They do not look the same. They do not.
What are they seeing they think is similar?
The color palette is this, but their heads are different. Their bodies are different. The way they move is different. It's just different.
I mean, we see head shape as a big thing within carpets, and the Morelia genus. You can kind of tell Morelia genus by that head shape. Do you believe that? I mean, I think that chondros look that they belong in the Morelia genus. Do you believe that, or?
I do. The Morelia genus for the longest time was like this lump of all these extra pythons with a prehensile tail. So like my thought is that, I think kind of like where they're going with how they have it broken down is kind of starting to get and make sense. So scrubs and Bolin pythons, they're together in a group. Basically,
which do have kind of a Morelia looking head though.
Yes, but they're like the head scales are different. The way this head is shaped, but similar. Carpets and chondros, I guess, are similar. I mean, they look similar,
but totally different in every behavioral way.
In every other way.
I think chondros and rough scales should be probably be a separate group. I think they should probably be in chondropython and not in Morelia.
Really?
Everybody's gonna.
Evan said he thinks. Evan said he thinks chondros are closely related to retics.
I mean, that just.
You made a face and you said automatically no.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. Timor pythons are very close to retics.
That makes sense.
And then he said, so if you think coastals and jungles are the same, would that make jungles a morph?
No.
Maybe not a morph, but a locality maybe more so than a morph.
I think jungles are a locality type carpet.
Interesting.
How dare you, sir?
I'll drink to that.
Reducing them to a locality. They are much more than that.
They're badass. Don't get me wrong. I love jungles, but it's not. The thing that's crazy to me when it comes to Morelia people, they seem to be like they're like very into the science, which is kind of what drew me to Morelia. But when the science disagrees with what they believe, then all the science is bullshit. But when it agrees with what they believe, then it's like, yes, this is what we're doing. Yes,
we can use this. Yes.
So I don't know. At the end of the day, you're keeping a snake in a box. What does it matter? Jungles are beautiful.
It's kind of silly with all the lineage is awesome, and I tend to go towards it. But then again, sometimes I think like we kind of made this shit up. Like it's really not that big of a deal. We're keeping them in.
Also, like if it was different, is it going to change? Is it going to change what you're doing? No. Like whether it's named this or named this, it's not gonna.
I guess it's like
it now.
We're all in a weird way these kind of crazy you know, kooky collectors, and you know, when you want a specific thing, you want that specific thing. You want the real deal. Like if you know, if I brought my wife home a diamond and it was a cubic zirconia, it looks like a diamond. She's
but
gonna
that
be like,
name matters.
Just don't
Yes.
tell her. It doesn't matter if you don't
it's
tell
a
her.
cubic zirconia, and she's gonna be like, no, you need to take that back and get me a diamond. And that's kind of like how we are with snakes.
But if you never tell anyone,
so if you sell your pure jungle as a pure jungle, you're selling it may be a cubic zirconia, but you never tell anyone. So life is good.
So jungles are one of those weird things. There are pure lines of jungles out there, and there are ones that are questionable. And this is another, you know, debate that we've had on the podcast from time to time. But the whole idea that like all of a sudden you got undocumented jungle and that gets a pass. But if I breed a granite to a jag, then all of a sudden I'm you know, like people are like, get their pitchforks out and ready to kill me because they're like, that is just sacrilege, you know? And it's just like, I mean, for me personally, the lineage, I just like the history, you know what I mean? To me, it's not really about the purity per se of an animal, but I just like the history of it. You know, I you know, like my coastals come from Michael Pinnell, which come from Lloyd Lemke, which, you know, that whole trail of keeping that line alive, whether they're pure or not, doesn't really make a difference to me as much as just having a piece of that line, bloodline or whatever. You know?
Everything's undocumented though at the very base
at some
of
point,
because it's from Australia, so it's all pretty much undocumented at some point.
I mean, yeah, it's silly to argue with somebody about, you know, it's just a silly argument because I mean, at the end of the day, you can't prove it. And then you have these guys and they'll be like, you know, yeah, you can prove it, but we're not going to talk about how you can prove it. And it's like, okay, well then you can't prove it. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean you can't talk? You got some footage, some secret footage of someone putting in their pants? Like, what are you talking about?
I don't know. But yeah,
I have the exact water bottle.
Yes, you know? Yeah. You know, I mean, so the only carpet that you can really prove that it's pure would be IJ's. Again, going back to that, you know, I got it from wild caught animals, you know, and this is now a new line, you know, that kind of thing. So,
so you're trying to get every python. Where is your Bolins?
Bolins are going to be probably the last one that I get.
Is that just expense or that you're not rushing into it?
I'm not rushing into it because I just want to get more experience with, you know, working with different stuff. They're one of, you know, I figure like by the time I'm hopefully breeding these other species of pythons, I'll gain, you know, some more knowledge and it will help me with breeding them. You know?
Are you maybe hoping that someone stateside has success with breeding them so you can get a captive bred pair? Or
well, that would be awesome. You know, I think there's a couple guys. One that comes to mind is Keith McPeak. He's a good friend of mine, and I think that he's going to be the one guy that does it one of these years. So,
for all of our non-people who are cued in, Bolins are pretty much a species that was kept unbred per se for many, many years until maybe like 5 years ago or someone in Europe, I believe, produced a few clutches, correct?
Yeah, well, so Bolins have been bred a few times in the States. The Barkers produced, I believe they imported a female that was gravid and they hatched out a clutch. Jason Bell.
That doesn't count, man. You know that.
Still baby Bolins. Frank Memo and Jason Balin, they produced the clutch.
Really?
Yep. And Mark Spataro, he produced 3 clutches, I believe, of Bolins in the U.S.
Holy shit, I had no idea. What was the time frame on that?
Maybe 2012 was Mark
Pretty
Spataro.
recently.
Yeah, he was pretty right around the same time that Frederick did it. Mark Spataro did it as well.
Was he using the same formula or is it totally different?
No, I think he was totally different. He was doing stuff. You know, the thing with here's what it comes to. This is my thought when it comes to breeding snakes like that. One thing with Bolins, I think that you know, with scrubs, they're kind of high strung and they need to feel secure. And I think they need a longer time to mature. And I think the secret with them, like, I'm not, you know, it's hard for me to say this it's just my thought. I'm not saying this is real or not, because it could be total bullshit. But I think that they need a place. So if you look at them in the wild, like they're burrowing down into, these mounds, like way down and laying their clutch where it's nice and warm down there. And I think if you could set up like similar to like what was his name? The guy that did the king snakes. Why is his name escaping me? Bob Applegate did with, he had that like lower level.
Pyros.
Yeah. If you could somehow do that with bones to where they could just go and hide and feel secure, I think
Applegate kept his pairs together at all times. I think he always cohabitated.
Oh, really?
And no one died?
No, I mean, there were like king snakes and shit. It's a different game, but then again, it's like, I mean, it would be stupid not to consider that route with pythons. I mean, you might as well.
I think the other thing with that complex in particular, scrubs and bolins, is that what happens is that, people are coming from breeding, say, ball pythons, carpets, or some of these easier to produce species, and they want to be the person that produces, I'm going to be the guy and I'm going to do it, and they have these visions of grandeur in their minds, and they get the snake. And scrub pythons they're special.
They're up there.
So you have to be really
one.
really have to be dedicated to to love those animals, because you're gonna get shit on, you're gonna get bit, I mean, trying to get a scrub back into a cage,
it's like a child.
And that's not all of them, but I believe it's just like what you see with retics and everything else. Like the more you breed them in captivity, they're going to chill out. But you're dealing with wild caught animals; they're going to be nuts.
Everyone in the reptile community says 3 to 5 years is the turnover for every species. It breeds in 3 to 5 years. I buy it; it breeds, whatever. That doesn't relate to the formula of all the other snakes.
I would say that scrubs need maybe 6 to 7 years to breed.
Oh, wow.
Like,
is most of that just getting comfortable, or
I think so.
Is it an actual maturity thing?
I think it is. But what happens is that you get these people, and I even myself have done this, it's like, oh, I'm going to breed these scrub pythons, and I go and I get this collection of scrub pythons, and for a while I had 12, maybe 14 of them.
Whoa.
And
that's dedication. I mean,
yeah. And you just get frustrated with them because you're doing all this work for little reward. You're not getting a clutch, and then people just say, oh, well, it's not going to breed, and then they pass it on to somebody else. As soon as you pass it on to somebody else, you have reset that clock.
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? So like that clock is now reset for another, 6
or 7.
I mean, it could take 3 years for them to settle in. It just depends on how good of a keeper you are. But I think that's the problem with scrub pythons.
So no one's seeing their projects through, basically.
Yes.
Which is a problem in the reptile community for everything. It just
But with scrubs, it kind of makes sense a little bit because they're a little dickish.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination between being large and dickish. Some of the smaller and dickish things you have decent success with. Amazon, tree boas. But people get out of those after a year or two after they figure out. But there's a few people who stick with it, and they're little and dickish, so it's more controllable than
big and
like 10-foot.
I can't believe in this day and age, we're 2017, and we still haven't bred Halmahera scrub pythons. I mean, I have a female. I had a long-term captive female that I had years ago, but she died. So I started the project back up again. But I mean, nobody even knows what an egg looks like. Well, there's one guy that did produce eggs, but he didn't get them to hatch. But like, there's no info how they are in the wild. So it's kind of like you're just kind of guessing and hoping for the best. So,
which, I mean, it's much easier to guess when back in the day, you had the barkers guessing on chondros and even bloods and fucking even ball pythons, but guessing on a species that's much harder to breed than those, that's obviously going to take many, many more years and iterations of trying. If you mess up the first time, maybe who knows the next time you're going to get eggs to be able to figure out how to incubate them. So,
yeah, absolutely. I kind of geek out on that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff interests me, like trying to figure it out. Like what, not so much the paint job on the car, but what makes the car run is kind of what.
Right. You
what
seem a lot more attentive to detail than I think most of the keepers out there.
I try to be. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but like, I think, we had Eugene Bissett on the show a long time ago. And the one thing that I learned more than anything else of doing Morelia Python Radio was, he said to me when we were at ICAST, and he was like, become a student of the serpent. Because I asked him just what you just said, like, Eugene, how did you figure these things out? Like, what is that process like? Like, how did you just like import these animals and be like, well, I'm going to try this and see how this works. And I'm going to try this and see how, shit, it didn't work. So we got to try it again next year and we're going to tweak it a little bit. Right. Or, like, how did they figure that out? And today we're looking, it seems like herpetoculture is just about like, can you make the newest, how many genes can I stuff into a snake and how cool. And I like that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing that at all, but we've kind of lost some of that, like trying to work with new things and figure them out,
right,
pioneering a new road, so to speak.
There's more people think they can be pioneers by creating the new morph when really just in 2 years it's obsolete anyway. So people are chasing some type of grandeur in a different way that maybe is less productive to the overall hobby of herpetoculture.
Yeah, and like I think, in my opinion, I think ball python breeders get a lot of hate, and I think that
on this channel especially,
I think that the hate is kind of not fair because in a way, like if you think about it, if you look at your average breeder, they're producing how many clutches? Hundreds? I mean, like I'm talking like big time. You know how difficult it is to produce 100 clutches of anything? I mean, to do it consistently, and that says something to them as a keeper. And like, right. Everybody just kind of poo-poos it like, oh, well, that's just ball pythons and blah, 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 blah. At one time, they were the rare snake.
They were hard to keep, yeah.
Yes!
Stuff like
people forget that shit or they don't know it, and it's
There's
like.
another one.
I want this one.
We're
sorry.
Over beer, sorry.
You can
okay.
go
hey,
get
man.
your honey.
Drink.
Nothing wrong with that.
Or you want me to go get your honey one?
If you could, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Goodbye.
So as far as I know with ball pythons and all that stuff, there's so many people producing them, but how do you feel like, I mean, you're going to have so many different pythons. How do you niche yourself in a market when your market is everything?
Honestly, I don't really care. I don't do this to make money. I do this for me. I am probably like the worst snake hoarder there is. I don't like putting my animals up for sale and like, I want to give them some time to like see how they turn out. Like, I think for me, like I held a clutch back because I want to see how they progress. I want to learn like when I see them as babies and then they turn out to be stunners, like how do I figure that out? How do I figure out like what to look for? And I think the only way to really do that is by holding stuff back and watching it grow.
But that is what attributes to your exact success with, say, the IJs. I mean, maybe that's the best plan for success, whether you want to admit it or not, is being patient and keeping those animals back.
Could be, yeah.
Especially with, I'm thinking about it with corn snakes because I'm going to produce some 2 localities mixed together, which turn into like orange and gray snakes, but they're all going to come out gray and black, and everyone's been crazy about asking me how they can get them, but I'm like, there's no way I can prove that they're going to be great, so I may just hold them back for like a year and see what's great and maybe just up price them a little bit. Like instead of being $80 babies, they may be $200 babies or something. So
yeah, I
mean that's something that I can take away from the way you're keeping your stuff.
Yeah, I'm not in a rush to. I mean, I don't do this to make money, so my electric bill is going to get paid by my job and not by my snakes, So it's not like something that I'm worried about. So, and some people are, and that's so. I'm not. I think that like if I'm the only guy producing ring pythons in the U.S., maybe there's another clutch. I don't think if I put them up for sale, I'm going to have a hard time selling them. There's going to be somebody in the U.S. that's looking for a pair of ring pythons or water pythons or maclot pythons or whatever it would be.
That's kind of something that I try to get across as far as because when we're planning to try to do stuff, it's like, it's hard because we want to breed water so bad, but it's like, she's trying to think, how many waters can we get and how many can we breed? But it's like, only me, Eric, Nick Mutton, and maybe Owen care about water pythons. That's pretty much the market. So it's like, we should have produced more because you're going to produce them one day and I'm going to produce them one day and Owen's going to produce them one day. And then we're all just going to have to fucking exchange with each other because no one else gives a shit.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of trying to figure out what your market is.
So I guess in a way I could answer that question like this. To me, the idea, you know, and going to Morelia Python Radio, the idea of Morelia Python Radio started as this. It's like, you know, I was a huge fan of Reptile Radio. I love that podcast. And, you know, those guys just, they had great chemistry together. And, you know, half the time they were talking about shit that I didn't even keep. You know, they're talking about ball pythons, but you can still learn from that. And I think like sometimes people are closed-minded and they're like, oh, I'm not going to learn anything from this because they're talking about ball pythons. Well, like
it all crosses over.
Yes, you can learn a ton of shit from watching YouTube
I listen to fucking Gecko Nation Radio. I listen to all that shit. I don't give one fucking shit. It's all the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's up to, you know, guys like me, people like you, that
wait, you can't put us in the same category.
We're not there yet.
We are not you.
Well, yeah,
you are.
I mean, you're doing it. Here's the difference. Listen, man. There's people that do stuff, and there's people that talk about doing stuff. Everybody talks a good game. Everybody talks. Everybody talks a good game, man. Everybody talks a good game. But you guys had the balls to say, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Screw it. If it works, it works. Whatever. I don't give a shit. If 2 people listen or watch it or whatever, who gives a shit? Like, and that's my approach. Like with Morelia Python Radio. When I started that, I didn't know it. I didn't even breed at that point. You know.
Wow, like, really?
But nobody's doing it. All I have to do is talk to people that breed these animals. I don't have to breed them. You know, I just have to be able to ask good questions.
People on.
Yeah,
dude. Do you know how often I get asked, how do I create a podcast? How do I do this? How do I do that? You don't ask, you fucking do it. And then you do it every fucking week at the same fucking time, even though I was late today. You do it fucking consistently and stop bitching about all this shit about you need more money to upkeep your podcast. All you do is fucking show up and talk to this microphone like a fucking child.
Take a breath.
All we're doing is talking to other people and fucking... You know, every Monday I message 3 more people trying to get them on the show, and that's all I do all week, trying to get this fucking show going. But I don't give a shit. I'm gonna be here no matter what. Every week I know you're gonna be here and we're gonna be here. Everyone else can go fuck themselves. So that's
oh my god.
Look, so when Morelia Python Radio started out, we had, I think, maybe 300 people listen to it, maybe. You know, and now we have.
Well, we're there right now after like 50 episodes. So
we're at that.
We had. I mean, the last time I checked, there was like 402,000 downloads of the podcast.
Holy shit!
Yeah, in a week.
That's why you can't put us and you in the same sentence.
Yeah, but I've just been doing it consistently for 6 years. I guarantee you, when you do it for 6 years, if you do it for 6 years, you'll have the same results. And
you've done it every week.
Every week. We take off 2 weeks a year. 2 weeks a year we take
may
off.
Do that because Monday lands on Christmas and New Year's.
You mean Christmas lands on Monday? So, Monday doesn't fall on Christmas.
Monday falls on Christmas because Monday is the fucking holiday. Because that's why we do the podcast. God damn it!
Yes.
Fuck Christmas.
We take off those 2 weeks just because number one, it's going to be impossible to get a guest. You know, that's going to be next to impossible. And it's a break for me and Owen. You know, from doing it every Tuesday. It's like our vacation. And those 2 weeks, I unplug from the snake world 100%. You know, it's like I'm not going on Facebook. I'm not answering an email. I'm not answering a message. I'm done. That's it. You know, we're
gonna show you up. It's gonna be me and Evan on Christmas Day.
Watch out.
Oh my gosh.
No, but yeah, I think we're gonna end up taking off those because they're both Mondays, Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, just the way it worked out this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just as long as you're consistent. I mean, like when I started Morelia Python Radio, I contacted Larry from Reptile Radio, and I asked him, I'm like, you know, what did you guys do to get this going, and what would you give me as some recommendations to start this podcast? And you know, he was awesome. What an awesome guy. And the main thing he told me was just be consistent. That's it. That's all you have to do. Just get on the thing, start it. I mean,
Just
if you
make
listen,
it.
yeah, if you listen to the very first Morelia Python radio of me by myself, what a train wreck, man.
Wait,
like
I had one, my first one's by
his
myself
were,
also.
I don't know how either of y'all did that. Like,
it's
you
hard.
You just talked to your.
I don't like
yourself.
talking to, like, I'm not that great talking to most people,
No,
let alone myself. To a
What did you talk about to yourself?
I challenge anybody listening or watching or whatever to just take 10 minutes, go into your bathroom, and just start to talk about your snakes by yourself. See what you can do. See how difficult that is. It's hard, right? I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
So how many did you do by yourself?
Just the one. And then I was
Just
like, I put an ad up on, I think it was Morelia Pythons, and Owen happened to live right by me, and I didn't even know him. At the time, he was kind of like, who's this Eric Burke guy buying all these cool carpets? He's infringing on my territory of Pennsylvania. He's going to be selling carpets at Hamburg, you know? But you know, we just hit it off. And like, I love the fact that me and Owen see the world differently. You know, and I think that makes for a good conversation. Like if it was me and say somebody like my good friend Rob Stone, who we agree a lot on, it would be kind of boring. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be like, yeah, I think we should put this and drop the temps here, and you know, it's just like no challenge, you know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the idea, what I was getting at is that, like, I think it's up to us to highlight these species and sort of, you know, find the people that are super passionate about it. And passion is contagious, man. I mean, you know, when somebody is super hyped about something, you just get hyped about it. You're just like, yeah, I'm in, you know, throwing credit cards and wallets.
Hype water python.
Well, the thing is, I think which is interesting. What I don't know if you'll take credit for it, but you and Owen kind of built Morelia to what it is now, because it's kind of right below mainstream now when it was off the map.
Ooh, I don't know if I want to take credit for that. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
But
yes,
it's true, because you gathered everyone together. You introduced everyone, as far as like all of our friends from Texas, whether they keep Morelia or not, we met at Carpet Fest. You know, a lot of the guys who we've had come over here, I breed corn snakes, but most of them are Morelia guys. And I keep a few Morelia, but that's really it. And things that fit into that. So I think it's really, you should take more credit in the fact that you've gotten together, like all of us. All of our fucking friends are basically from Carpet Fest.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, Carpet Fest was another passion of mine that was like, okay, so we, you know, I got the snakes, and it's like, well, how, you know, in a way it was kind of selfish. Morelia Python Radio was like this way of me being able to talk to these people that have bred for years, and, you know, like to pick their brain every
have an avenue
week.
for it.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, okay, and now I get to know them, and you know what I mean? Now we become friends and whatnot, but you know, it just seemed like a progression. It's like, okay, well, let's all get together and have a good party. And like, you know, because every time we, you know, go to a reptile show, you feel bad. You're standing in front of somebody's booth and you're like, yeah, I want to talk to you and pick your brain. But meanwhile, like 15 customers are just walking by that you're missing, you know?
It drives me nuts.
No, it's not
standing there to talking to people for so long. And I'm like,
I will
you
stop.
gotta
Someone
move
walks
around.
up, I stop.
Like, no.
Let them talk and then start talking to the guy again. Because in particular, it's someone like Stu Tennyson is some guy who does it locally here. But it's like he makes every single colubrid, every weird species that doesn't eat, he keeps. He keeps everything that doesn't eat. Right. So I'm like, let me ask this guy how I make snakes eat. Like, it's simple.
Yes. Shit, I would like to talk to that guy.
That up.
I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to pass that up ever. So I feel like that's kind of, you know, the way of, I'm doing the same thing. I talk to people that aren't in my league a lot of the time over the podcast and shit, whether it's someone who's better at me at social media, like David from Tiki's Geckos. He's much better at me than social media, so I want to talk to him about social media, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think it's just a different avenue for us to get better in whatever way.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, you can always learn something from somebody. And like I said, man, there's people that, you know, again, going back to Carpet Fest, there's people that do, and there's people that talk about it. And it's like forever, everybody talked about this Carpet Fest, and we want to get together, and they could never decide on a place or decide where to go or whatever. And it's like, screw this, Owen, we're doing Carpet Fest. We're going to do it. And, where are we going to have it? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. And we did, and here we are, what, 6 years later, I guess? Yeah, 6 years later.
How many people showed up to the first Carpet Fest?
Maybe actually there was more chondro people than there were carpet people at the first Carpet Fest, because we were in Maryland and there was more, that's
a hotbed.
That's the hotbed for, chondros. And, but, to be sitting there and be talking to guys like Buddy Buscemi or like, Greg Stevens or like, I'm trying to think who else was there at that first Carpet Fest, but, to be able to sit down and drink a beer with them and pick their brain and just, get to know them one-on-one, even besides the snakes, it's an awesome thing. And I don't understand why, more people don't come to it. The one in Texas, when they said that they were having it, I was like, holy shit, I'm going to get to meet Michael Pinnell. This is going to be so cool. I'm going to meet Sean Christian. These are guys that I looked up to, and now I'm going to be able to drink a beer with them and hang out with them and talk to them. And it's just silly. I don't understand why people don't want to go.
I don't know if people view it because those people are going to be there as a more of an elite thing.
It's kind of weird. Like, you think you build up all these people in your mind, right? You're
right.
Like, Michael Pinnell, holy shit. And then you meet him and it's just like, he's just a guy. Like, can I call you M Pen? What do I call you?
Yeah.
But, he's just a normal guy.
I'm thinking already now, like, the day I meet Nick Mutton, like, I don't even love snakes like
y'all do.
You're
gonna leave me for him.
Like, I'm not.
It's fine. I understand.
Like, I'm totally not fine. As
Nick
obsessed with him
is
as
intimidating
y'all
because he's jacked. He's like,
but still, I'm like, these conversations have made this man, like you said, you build them up. So it could be Carpet Fest could be a little intimidating for some people.
Yeah, I've been talking to Nick since 2009, and I just met him 2 years ago. Was the first time that I met him.
Where'd you meet him?
He came to Carpet Fest.
Okay.
He came out to Carpet Fest, and it was like, oh wow, I'm actually meeting the guy that I'm talking to.
Right.
It's kind of weird. Like, it sounds like I'm meeting a girl, and you're like all nervous.
You're all nervous, right? And talks about before, even like when you're really removed, you don't even know what people look like, because we've talked about how many times people put only snakes on their Facebook or only snakes on their Instagram, and you don't even know what their face is.
Yes. Yeah. The one thing that I always get is, because Owen always calls me a hobbit, is like, wow, you're a lot taller than I thought you were in real life. So, like, oh, okay. They think I'm like 2'2" or something like that, the way Owen portrays me. But
oh Lord, that's bad. But yeah, it's just a good thing. Okay, wait, I have to say 2 things really quick. Jackie, who like started talking a lot last week, she wanted us to shout out her daughter. Her daughter's name is Bria, and Jackie was really cool last podcast, so I said I would do that because she asked a lot of really good questions, and even tonight she's asked a lot of really good questions. So I hope Bria, I'm assuming that's how you say it, I hope Bria is as much into snakes as you are.
Evan just called
Jackie.
Michael Pinnell the Silver Fox. An appropriate nickname.
That's right. The Silver Fox.
And then someone said Nick Mutton is on TRT,
which stands for testosterone replacement therapy for those who aren't good with the juice game, which I
don't know, that could be.
Also about Carpet Fest, you had this idea to do this and you've made it, and now it's Evan's favorite day of the year.
Yeah.
How do you feel like having such a?
I think Carpet Fest is more exciting than like birthday, Christmas, everything combined to Evan.
Well, I think there was a thread a while back, and it was on Facebook somewhere, and it was like, what are the things that you're most proud of in your herpetoculture career or whatever you want to call it. And probably that would be the two things are Morelia Python Radio and Carpet Fest, and then you see them making a Carpet Fest on the West Coast. And then there's one in, there's a Southern Carpet Fest. And now there's going to be a Southeast Carpet Fest, and there's a Northwest Carpet Fest. And it's like, wow, it's pretty cool, So.
Have you heard from Ian as far as what's going on with the Southeast one? Are you gonna fly down for that one if it does happen? Or
I think the problem for me with that one in particular is that my work is going to be super intense when they're planning to do it, so I probably won't be able to get off. So I probably won't be able to go to that, but I would not miss. Well, obviously, I'm not going to miss the Northeast one, and the Southern one is kind of locked in for me now. I like going there, coming down and hanging out.
Especially because we're gonna have a crawfish boil, and Evan has the whole day planned.
Matt Morris, fucking, what do we have? Fajitas for good too.
Yeah.
And plus, for you guys, it's decent weather in a time where you don't have decent weather.
Oh yeah, we were swimming the last time. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah,
we were like, "Fuck you! It's winter. Get out of here. We're not swimming for shit."
Yeah. I think we were talking to Matt about that. Like, he was talking about how it was in Philly and everything. Which, speaking of Philly, I don't know how much you've listened to our podcast,
you guys are
but
coming, right?
Yeah, which talking about meeting people, I'm a little nervous to move to Philly. I'm like, I feel like it's already kind of locked down on the people there. I feel like we can't encroach on the territory.
No, man. Much love. We're welcome. Welcome. You just have to say John. That's a Philly thing. And let's see what else.
Wait, what is
John can be anything.
It doesn't mean anything. That's my thing. It doesn't mean anything.
Wait, you have random words like that from New York too? I don't understand that.
Not like John. That's made up.
No, Jamoke. You say Jamoke. Jamoke.
A fucking Jamoke.
That's a made up word.
A fucking Jamoke.
Jamoke is. Y'all have all these made up words that I don't understand.
Or like if a whiz wit. I know that's a Philly thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
don't get Swiss on a cheesesteak or you'll get punched in the face.
What kind of cheese do I have to get?
Provolone or whiz, right?
American. Don't.
American.
I can't get like pepper jack.
You could, but people are gonna look at you funny. They're gonna be like, "What?"
Dang. Okay.
Yeah, it's like perfectly in between, like our family, my family, and her family. So it's like we were trying to move somewhere in between there. Plus, it's the Wild West as far as herp laws go, and I figure. I'm 25 now, so I'm hoping when I'm 55, snakes will still be legal somewhere. And if they're legal anywhere, it's fucking Pennsylvania. So,
yeah, we got the Viper Keeper, for Christ's sake, in our state. It's pretty much whatever you want,
I think he just takes bites as part of to thin his blood a little bit to keep his blood pressure down.
Yeah, could be. No, you'll love it, man. It's nice up here. It's perfect for breeding snakes. I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sick of when I was in New York. It's easy to make colubras go down to 55 degrees.
Yeah.
In Texas, there's such a swing that it will be 40 tonight, but it'll be 80 during the day. So it's kind of tough to keep that cooler temperature to brumate.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of storms roll through, which is always great for breeding snakes. That kind of stuff. But. Yeah. I
mean, it's nice too. I mean, you're cold there, so if it's 30 degrees, it's easy to warm a room up instead of messing around with cooling it one day and heating it another day.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you'll be at the OG Carpet Fest.
Yeah, there you go.
We got to get Evan up there.
He won't come. He's one of those talkers. He's not a doer.
Unless it comes to queso at Carpet Fest or whatever else.
Or his crawfish boil. He said Carpet Fest is the thing that helped get a lot of us together. One of the best things I ever did other than my kids.
Good job.
That's hardcore.
Wow.
So what's up next as far as I know you are this year mostly carpets. What's on deck? Are there any other python species on deck after this? Maybe next year?
Next year. Yeah, next year I could possibly have a shot at scrub pythons. I could have a shot at a lot of Antaresia stuff, like children, spotted, Stimsons.
Do you have pygmies?
I do, yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. What else? I'm trying to think what else I got. That's of age. Blood pythons are possibility. And then
Is that those are red bloods or
red bloods? Yeah.
because I know you have Borneos rather from Matt, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, when it comes to short tails, I don't think there's anybody. Well, especially Borneos. I mean, you'll be able to see his spot too, man. But holy shit, he has some of the most. I'm wearing his shirt from him tonight. Philly Herb. But he's an awesome guy, man. Really, really awesome guy. But another guy that I met just by doing the show, and he lives right around the corner from me. It's like.
Did you know of him before from shows, or did you just hit him up from known in the area?
No, I just it was I was looking for somebody to do a short tail show, so I just I looked up Borneo short tails, and when I looked it up, his name popped up, and I was like, he lives in Philadelphia? What the hell?
You're looking for all this shit, and it's all just right next to you, clearly.
Yeah, like, how do I not know this? So I messaged him. He came on the show, and then I think maybe after that, and we kind of hung out or something. I asked to go see his collection, and then we just became friends. Now every year we do the Tinley Park, travel. Him, me, Owen. This year we had Buddy Buscemi with us. It's just cool. Like I'm driving to Tinley Park, spending 14 hours in a car with these guys.
Oh shit! You need to do that. You need to record that.
I did it by myself, but not with other guys.
That'd be an interesting podcast.
How did you guys manage to get? You guys probably span at least 2 or 3 tables at Tinley. So, how are you packing all these animals, and what vehicle are you driving?
So Matt has a he has I have a Nissan Titan, and he has the enclosed version of it. I can't think of what it's called.
Certainly not a Prius or something.
No. Sorry for all you environmental people that
we're green. We went over this in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get a lot of hate now. No, we take that, and we take a trailer with us. And
take a trailer.
Yeah, we take a trailer. So,
do you do any supplement? You don't do any supplemental heat. You just let it ride.
We do heat packs, and you pack them like you're shipping them. That's what I do.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. So, and then when we get to the show, we put heat cord in the displays, so that they can warm up that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
Sorry, Evan said he's gonna make it to the OG one. He said,
we'll
just
see
watch.
When he gets
just
there.
Watch.
It's a lot of talk, man. I don't believe it till I see.
Also, someone said Owen was being a dick to people at Tinley.
He was?
I don't know what that's about.
That doesn't surprise me.
Wait, yeah, someone else said a lot of people were talking about Owen being an ass at Tinley. What?
Oh, shit. Well, Owen's there's a reason why Owen doesn't contact the guest and why Owen doesn't be the public figure of Morelia Python Radio. That's on purpose.
Y'all are the balance. You talked about that. He challenges you. Y'all balance each other.
I think that's the cool thing. As far as you are seemingly the nice one. And we have the same thing. I'm a fucking dick, and she doesn't know anything about snakes, but she's kind of all right. She's a little warm.
Okay. I think it is good that I don't know and you know, because
you get to ask lower level questions, I guess.
Well,
and make you explain shit.
One of the cool things that I like from I listen to you guys. I don't watch you guys, but when I hear it, she's asking questions that are from a different perspective, and I think sometimes when you're into this and you're just so involved in it, you kind of lose sight of those questions. So like when somebody's tuning in and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell's Cover Girl? Poison Ivy?
Yeah,
what are you talking about? Bowling Ivy? What is that? you know, like.
Or like people don't understand the sarcasm I may have shitting on IJs, or vice versa, you know, with jungles or coastals. You know, like I'm like, I'm pissed off that you think that jungles are coastals, but really I'm just kidding because it doesn't matter, you know? Like we just like.
But it's like y'all, once you know, you can't go back, and it's like I don't know, so I'm that little voice.
Like we could talk all day, but without people understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It could be a whole different language if we wanted it to be.
Sure.
And when we were with Dr. Travis Weinman, it was most definitely a whole different language.
Oh yeah, he's on a whole nother level. That guy, man.
That's why it's like you get Nick and him together, and it's like
that would be very interesting.
Yeah, like I was real happy when Herp Nation was doing these podcasts, and it was like, you know, they were doing more. For lack of a better word, like nerdy science type of podcast. And it's like, everybody has this niche, you know, it's like, and then you go in that niche and we're like, kind of like the in-between. Sometimes we get a little nerdy, but not too nerdy, you know, like, or we, you know, cause we don't know to be any smarter than what we are, you know what I mean? Like we can't take it to the next level. And then when you're talking to these other guys and they're talking about the Pliocene era and like, you know, and you're like, all right, this is a whole nother level of shit, man. You know.
Once Nick says Pleistocene, I'm like, I don't know.
I can't even say it right. You know. Like, holy shit! All right, it's about to get real now. He's breaking out the. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think that says a lot to our hobby as far as like, there's so many different moving parts as far as like, I'm not the best guy with natural history. People sometimes ask me like, hey, what about, you know, Lilypad often asks me about different type of
like scales or
different like biology, physiology of snakes and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I am not the person. If you want to breed a snake in a box, I may be that person, but otherwise I am not that great, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always trying to push myself to the next level, but you know, and the way I do it is just by talking to these people and, you know, picking their brain or reading, you know, constantly reading. But even then, like, you know, it's kind of intimidating, like to go on a podcast and say words that you read that, you know, like, how do you say, you know, Morelia chenii, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to butcher this one or whatever. You know,
you laughed at me for calling it shiny eye, and I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Or even like Brettles, when y'all switched to Breadline, I was like, wait, I had to stop and be like, are y'all talking about the same thing? Like, I didn't even realize.
I don't think any of us know. Do you know?
What? Yeah, but like both Breadlie, what is it? Morelia breadlie is the scientific name. Brettles is, they just call it that because they want to call it breadlie. You know, I guess like it's really Centralian. Yeah. They're not even carpet pythons, and people lump them in with carpet pythons, but
they are and they aren't. You know, I mean, the thing is that there's these weird species that aren't carpet pythons, but we all keep olives, or we all keep centralians, or we all keep chondros. There's bolins. There's some things that Morelia people are just inherently seemingly interested in. Yeah.
They like that prehensile tail, that like the skinny snake that sits on a stick, you know, with the chunky head. And some people like fat snakes with, you know, short tails, and, you know, it just depends on what you like, you know. Unfortunately for me, I like it all. You know?
Well, yeah, if you're going for all these different pythons, you got to.
So have you gone Burm, retic, African rock, all that stuff?
Yeah, I was looking for a pair of African rocks forever, for years. And I kept them before a while back on like 2003. I think I had African rocks, and I actually scored a pair of Tinley. I couldn't believe it. Just by accident, I was cruising Facebook and somebody said that they had African rocks for sale, and I was like, done. You know, and like when I went to pick them out, they were biting me and shitting on me, and I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome."
So wanted it?
I can't wait till these are 15 feet.
Yes. It's so cool. So yeah, I have a pair of African rocks, a pair of retics, and a pair of berms. And actually, I just bought a female dwarf berm.
There's
So
dwarf worms? I didn't even
yep.
know that.
hmm
So
Yeah.
how does that come from? Because I know dwarf retics mainly come from islands, which obviously have maybe migratory food or something that's stunting their growth. But where did dwarf berms come from?
They come from, I don't know what the island is. I can't remember off the top of my head,
So
but
there's
same
islands.
thing. Same thing as retics, they're like,
Okay.
and apparently I'll see it tomorrow. It actually comes tomorrow, but their eyes are a little further up on their head like an anaconda because they spend a lot of time in water. But I think they max out at about 8 feet is what they max out at.
Really?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
Don't think about that.
As
Don't.
those
That
don't
doesn't
succumb
mean
to
they're doomed.
respiratories, within a week. That
yeah.
sounds very interesting. As far as respiratories, are Africans as prone as maybe berms are to that kind of thing?
I'm not really sure, but I think probably I would say yes, just because I think that really comes from just the fact that, people keep them in a smaller cage. Like, I don't know. We were talking
Maybe
about this the other
airflow is an
day.
issue.
That could be, and just them stretching out and getting air into their lung. I mean, imagine being bent in half. You would be like probably hard to breathe too. So
Yeah, that's called less than jail for most humans. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna probably shoot for like maybe 10-foot cages at the minimum with
Jesus
those big
fucking
snakes.
Christ.
Just so they can spread out.
I know Jeff Hartwig only has success with his olives in, giant cages. So I was wondering maybe if people would adapt that for other species. As far as Crutchfield keeps, retics and outdoor and berms in outdoor enclosures.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never bred. I mean, berms were my first love. I love them. I've had them for years.
Well, yeah, 10 years old.
Yeah, and that snake actually grew to be, I think, 18 feet. I got that to be. It was a big berm, and I don't know. I never bred them because back then nobody cared about breeding.
Right.
It was like you just wanted to, have the species, and
Put a
this
heat lamp over it and call it a day.
Yeah. This past year I didn't breed at all, and I think it refocused me and reset me. It was good to take a year off and just enjoy my snakes. You know what I mean? Just enjoy the collection and not be worrying about, oh my God, I got to drop the temps and do this and do that, and I don't know. It was nice. It was a good reset. But
how do you feel about, will you be freaking out and maybe, 40 years breeding all these pythons, getting eggs, trying to do a million different drops or different things to get them to breed?
I think my theory is this. I think that in reality, I think that pythons really, for the most part, are all require the same thing. Like I really believe that you could probably keep them the same way. It's harder with like wild caught stuff, but I think that they all need the same thing. But I'm just talking my thoughts. Hopefully, the more experience I have with working with all these different species, I'll be able to answer that better.
Well, I will supplement that with the Terry Phillip method is obviously something you've talked about, which Terry Phillip believes that pretty much all species can thrive at, just giving them 80-degree ambient. I don't know if I believe that across the board, but I keep my corn snakes like I keep my carpet pythons, like I keep my olives, like I keep my water, like I keep my chondro, like I keep everything. So, I mean, there may be some merit in there as far as maybe we're trying too hard and given different requirements.
Yeah, I think that, you're trying to replicate nature in a body. The greatest thing that Terry Phillip ever said when talking to him was like, if you look at the rattlesnakes that are out in the Midwest, occasionally they're in an environment where their snow will happen. Do you shovel snow into their cage to replicate? I mean, it's just ridiculous. When you think about it that way, it's like, oh shit, get the shovel, honey. I'm going to, shovel some snow into the cage.
Just make it like outside.
Silly. It's when you think about it like that, you're like, holy shit, like, am I like overthinking this? And I think sometimes we do. We overthink things. I think it's a lot simpler than what we make it out to be.
Well, it's hard because that's what you have to compare it to. I feel like, oh, well, in nature, da 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 da. Well, in nature, da 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 da. So then some people
also,
are like,
people, I think, ignore the macroclimate, say Indonesia, to the microclimate, as far as, something that's living in a burrow is going to have a different microclimate than something in the trees. So if you're keeping a chondro the same as something that burrows in the ground, maybe it's different. I don't know. What's your view on that?
So yeah, you're 100% right. Like, I think that, like, there's this guy that contacts me from Australia all the time, and like, he listens to the show, and he'll contact me and he'll tell me, what it's really like in the environment, or what the snakes are really doing. I mean, he's been in this one section of Australia for 27 years, and he works outside. So, I mean, he's telling me about all these different Centralian pythons that he's seen, and like, they're hatching, and you'll find them in your house. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you're like, to us, that's like, yes,
yes, I will take that any day. Please just snakes appear. Christmas.
Yes. But like, one of the things I said the other day is that snakes, I think this was last week or whatever, I think it was when Ryan was on, but we were talking about snakes always wanting to, they're like avoiding the heat of the day. They're hiding. And he disagreed with that, with certain species, where he said that they're in these little microclimates, but they're like warm. And when they come out at night, they're like warm to the touch. And how are they getting that warm? And he said it's hot there, not like what we, it's not 80 degrees. It's like, 90 and 100 degrees.
It's the middle of nowhere, Australia, burning hot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think it just goes back to, I think it's good to look at the wild, look at the environment, look at what the snake is doing in the environment, or reptile, or whatever, and have that as your base. And then sort of like, as you're watching the animal, I think that's where people fall short. Again, I go back to that thing where they look at this recipe like they're baking a cake, and they're like, oh, well, this is how I breed carpet python. So, and da, 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 da. And when it doesn't work, because they're not looking at the cues of as I'm staring at my jungle carpet about to attack me across the room, they're not looking at those cues from the snakes and tweaking it accordingly. I think the snakes will tell you what they want. You just have to be paying attention.
Are you at the same part of the year where all your males are cruising around looking for females?
Yes. I usually, we're going to talk. So my show tomorrow is like all about breeding season, and we do it every year, and we try to make it so that, somebody could listen to it and get some kind of information about breeding. So we do it from start to finish. But one of the questions that I posed is, is there some benefit to starting your season at the same time every time? Because you talk to some people and they talk about how they follow the outside. It's like when the temperatures start to drop, then they start to drop the temperatures. And then there's other people that say, you talk to somebody like Ryan Young, who starts on November 1st every year. And like, when we were talking to him about breeding white lips, there was like 3 years where he tried to produce white lips and they wouldn't produce. But then eventually that female figured out like what his cycle is, and then went into his cycle.
Into that. Okay.
Yes. You know what I mean? So like, again, that comes with patience and just saying like, so which is the right way? I don't know which is the right way, but I kind of follow that regimen where, I used to start dropping temps at the beginning of October, but like recently here, it doesn't get cold until November. Now we're cold, but like in October, all of a sudden it will be like you're saying, how your temps are down there. Like it's 30 degrees and then 80 degrees. And you're like, what the hell, man?
That gives me hope. No, I love that you're saying this. I'm so scared to move to the cold.
Yeah. But
no, it'll be consistently cold, because I've been trying to ship to Connecticut for 3 weeks, and finally I got a day that may be 40 degrees. And then I refreshed it like 10 minutes later when the guy was like, yeah, man, send it today. I refreshed it. It said like 37. I was like, whatever, I'll put a heat pack in it.
You gotta get it out.
It will survive. It's a corn snake.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is, but I think that I think that there's some warrant, to starting your season at the same time every year. Because I think that, like, when you're talking to somebody like Ryan Young, his females, they start without him even dropping temperatures. They just know this is the time of year. How they know that, I have no idea. But
that's what I mean. At least with my carpets, I don't have much experience with carpets, but what I can tell you is that I work in this room all the time at my computer, so I can see them all day. That they started cruising in September. Like, I didn't change anything. The hotspot's always the same. It's just for some reason the outside comes in, whether or not we had the thermostat set at 74 the whole time, but they still know. I don't get how snakes, they just want to cycle no matter what.
You talk to some people and they talk about how they don't drop temps. Like, oh, I don't drop temps. My temps stay the same. But in a way, you do drop temps and you don't even realize you're dropping temps. Like, your room is going to drop in the wintertime.
Naturally.
It's just going to drop, even if it's a couple degrees. Maybe they don't need that drastic drop that everybody, thinks they need. Like, they have to take, things down to 50 degrees or whatever. When it comes to pythons, with carpets, like IJs, you just blow a breeze in your room, like, and then all of a sudden they're going to breathe. You don't have to do anything. It's just like, ooh, it's a little chilly. Boom, they're breeding. And like, it's funny how you see it though. You see it progress. Like, when you have all these different species and you're working with them, you see like IJs will breed first, then Darwins are next, then jungles and coastals, and then you get into your southern springtime breeders. So, well,
I'll go more specific because I don't have all those subspecies and stuff like that, but I have a diamond jungle, and my jungles went a month before my diamond jungle started cruising. So it's like that? Even just 83.5% of him said let's go a month later, and he went a month later, which is crazy. Just that little influence.
You think they have an inner struggle? Like, I want to breed. No, you can't breed.
Yeah, they have an identity crisis of some sort.
What am I?
Do you think
I'm under a jungle?
Then we give them credit?
No. Yes and no. I mean, they just do what they need to do to survive, I think, at the very lowest level.
Yeah. I think they adapt to whatever it is, and it's just about being consistent. I think the more important, like when it comes to breeding pythons, I think that, like, let's say that there's like 5 triggers, and this is how I explain how, you guys in Texas and somebody on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, and we all do different things, but somehow we all produce. So like, is it food cycling? Is it temperature cycling? Is it light cycling? Is it, is it no cycling? Is it, what could it be? Maybe you have to hit on 2 of them. You can hit on any 2, but if you hit on 2, you're going to be successful.
Works.
You know what I mean? So they need 2 of these things, and I'm just making this up, but it's how I'm thinking that they work. You can't, in order to unlock them, you have to have a lock that hits 2 of those things, and then all of a sudden they'll go. If you only hit 1, you're not going to have success.
I can agree, but only with the easiest breeding species. So as far as I've done that with ball pythons, I cycle fed and then also let the room get down a little bit cooler. I've done it with corn snakes that never bred, kept a corn snake for 12 years without breeding it. And then all of a sudden I cycle it, and not even to 55 degrees. I'll just turn the heat off, go to 70 room temperature, stop feeding, and then bring it back up 2 months later. And they're cycled and ready to go with only hitting 1.5 maybe of those things, So it's like,
absolutely. Yeah, because some people drop temps, some people don't drop temps, some people drop temps drastically, some people drop them a little bit, some people light cycle, some people missed, it's like all these different things that, do they work? I don't know, but somehow you're doing something different and you're having success than what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So somewhere like they figure it out. I think they want to breed. I think
we're all just noticing that we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
we don't have a clue, man. We're just figuring it out, But
I have a question. So we've talked a lot about like temperament, I think, and personality a lot.
What's in this cup?
Cherry Coke.
Ew. What the fuck is that? That's not alcohol.
Okay, no, it's not. You've already had 4 beers. You don't need any more alcohol.
Well, when Bill was here, I don't know if you were drinking, but I drank a 6-pack by myself, and that was a good medium. That was a happy medium.
These are stronger.
That's true.
These are much stronger than
good. I forgot.
I liked them. Yeah. Should we plug them?
Shout out to Lakewood. The last one sucked dick, but these ones were pretty good.
These are the Lakewood Holiday Bonus, a festive porter.
Okay. All right.
There you go. That's a local favorite, fellas. Dallas brewed.
That's interesting. It says it's an ale bleh. I was about to say
This is a really shitty
okay,
beer
I was
podcast.
about
What
to
were we
say
talking about?
ale bred with something because you breed everything. That's what we're talking about. Ale
Okay.
brewed with an orange peel and chocolate.
Oh, wow.
I don't taste
It
the orange
tasted okay,
peel, but okay. My
What were
question.
We had something.
I was saying a question. That's what was happening. So we've talked a lot about personality. I know we've talked about like breeding scrubs and waiting years and all that other stuff.
We need
So
scrubs.
no, that was not where I was going with that. I was asking Eric, do you think that as keepers we have a large effect on the temperament of our snakes? Like we've talked about this before about how docile, like we've seen, someone be like, I'm the reason why my snake is docile. I'm the reason why this. And I feel like y'all
I'm
kind
so
of, I feel like
50-50 about this
I feel
subject
like
in
some
general.
of the things y'all have talked about have led to that y'all believe
Can you
that.
tame a
Like,
snake? Is really
do you
the
think
question.
you're the reason?
I think with more, well, I don't know. I think with species like retics,
Yeah.
I think that they're smarter and they're on a different level, and I think how you act with them will affect how they act with you. I think that they definitely will build a trust with you, but I mean, as far as I don't know, that's hard to say. I mean, some snakes you handle a lot and then they calm down. Then other snakes, no matter what you do,
They're a
just all
dick.
Yeah, I think it's just like they have personalities like people. Some are
Yeah.
assholes, some are Erics, and some are Owens.
But my pine snakes will never be nice because their natural instincts are just so hardcore for some reason, which seems the same way with scrubs. Their natural instincts are just so overpowering that they're never going to be nice. But something like a corn snake I can tame down.
But see,
I've
I
had
don't
a
know
few-
if it's you taming down. I don't.
See, I think that this is what happened. Like you talk about scrubs. So I had this one scrub, and it was probably the tamest scrub that I had, and you could handle it very easily. So I would handle it. That would be the one that I would handle. So I think like by it being a little bit more chill, that I'm able to handle it, which makes it even more,
More chill.
more chill or whatever. I don't know what you say, but you know what I mean. It's like one of those things where what is causing that.
So in order to get proper experiment, we're gonna have you handle your biggest dick of a scrub every day now and see.
And you could track how many bites, how many.
Oh, he's looking at me, or she's looking at me, ready to go. She's like, "Go ahead."
Maybe I could swallow him. Not really sure.
I don't know if I can spin it around to where you could see her. But...
Yeah, we showed you ours. Show us yours.
Whoa.
So this is, I don't know.
Are those all like what cages are those? Those AP cages?
AP, yeah.
See, this is why we need the headphones like him.
Yeah, so we can be cool.
And like,
holy shit, it's out there. It's coming for you.
People are gonna like this. We never take our snakes out. People are gonna be happy.
No.
Yeah, but that's.
And how old is this one?
She's 2.
Okay.
And what locality?
She is a sarong.
Very nice.
But
I mean, not going for your face or anything. I mean, she looks pretty good.
You know what I mean? You can handle them pretty well. She's pretty chill.
If you've never seen a grown man get bit by a scrub, let's wait a couple minutes.
Live on the air. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, she's not. I would never trust her 100%. But
so are yours all in cages like that, or do you do any tubs?
I do tubs. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me lock this up. Yeah, I do. I've just recently switched to. I mean, obviously, she's so big, I wouldn't keep her in a tub. But
right.
I think that a lot of people put them in cages. I think that's a keeper thing rather than a
need.
A need. I think you take something like ball pythons. They want to be in a tub. And if they breed good in a tub, maybe that's what they want. Like, just because we wouldn't want to be in a tiny little tub, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Snakes want to feel secure.
See, that's how, when I brought up like my docile question, I feel like obviously I can't control what other people are doing or their thoughts, but as far as how much we can affect their temperament, I want to say, I want to err on the side of caution, because I feel like if we say that, then people keep going with it. Like, ooh, I don't know
Well, no
how to
snake
do my
wants
words.
affection. I think that's the bottom line.
But I think people are just, oh, the more you handle it, the calmer it is. So people are like, okay, I take my snake out every
Right, but
day.
it's not an
I take my
affection
snake
thing.
out
I
every
think
day
that's the
because
point.
I like it, or because it likes it. And it's like, I just want to be like, no, just stop. Just stop. I don't want to give them that inch to be like, yes, you can make your snake docile. And then they're like, okay, that's why I take it out every day. And I kiss it and I let it fucking sleep with me in the bed and all that stupid shit.
It's only sizing
it's
you
like-
up when you sleep with it. Dying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
sometimes they're.
I just don't want to even
It's hard.
say that we have that
Because
effect.
people want to love their pets. It's hard to say what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. People think that no, you don't know Fluffy. She's really, it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just like,
It's-
but
I
you
feel like
don't
it's
know
easier
Fluffy.
if you're Eric rather than me, who sells corn snakes and have to tell people that corn snakes are going to bite them and they don't think it. It's easier when you're like, oh, here's a scrub, and like obviously
Everyone knows it's
who's
gonna
gonna
bite.
buy a scrub is gonna know what's gonna come about.
yeah, man. You say what you will about pythons, but I tell you what, man. The most bites I've gotten from a python is from a ball python.
Oh,
They're the
jeez.
beginner species. Like, when I was down there cleaning ball pythons for Bill, I got bit like 3 times, man. It just wouldn't stop biting me. I'm like, what the hell?
It's all those petunias that he puts around and shit. That's what riles him up.
I don't know. I mean, everybody says that they're a beginner snake and beginner python, and I guess there is some validity to that. But
But not keeping wise, they're shitty
They're so
to keep.
annoying.
They're
And,
hard to
and
keep.
they
yeah.
shed shitty, they feed shitty. I don't get it, man. Carpet pythons are freaking
Corn
rock
snakes.
solid.
Corn snakes.
Are the
Corn
corn
snakes.
snakes, though, of pythons. As far as I can keep a python or a carpet python and know it's gonna shed, know it's gonna eat all that. I swear it's the corn snake of the carpets.
But it's a little bit more aggressive.
You know what
Maybe.
actually led me to carpet pythons was I had all these different, again, back when I had all these different type of pythons and I was trying to, do the same thing I'm doing now. I had to move, and I had to move my snakes, and I had to put them somewhere. So I had to put them in my parents' basement, and it got cold as shit down there. I mean, like cold. And pretty much everything except the carpet pythons, the 2 jungle carpet pythons, got RIs. These things, you would go in and like they bask under this light. They didn't give a shit. It was like 40 degrees in that basement. They didn't care. You know what I mean?
So
as long as they could warm up
coastals
during the
lived,
day.
and jungles got our eyes.
No. At the time, I only had a pair of.
I
only had one pair of carpets at that time, which they turned
so
out
it was
to be
just
some
those
kind of
jungles?
mutts. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Well, they were sold to me as jungles, but clearly
They're
when the thing
pure,
was 12
for
feet
sure.
long, they were not pure.
yeah, I mean that's always a sketchy part of the carpet python thing. It's always a fucking question. What were you gonna say with it?
So connected to my question, and someone asked this, and I have the same thing too. So if we do have an effect on the
Temperament.
the temperament of a snake, do you think temperament can be bred in or at like selective breeding for temperament?
Yes.
You think that's possible? Okay.
Yes. I
Just
think
choosing
that
the
you can breed
calmest,
for
the
temperament.
calmest.
Yes.
Do you think that's captive generations, or is that individually based? As far as if you get F4s, they're going to be more good, better off than F2s. But
I think it's a little bit of both. But I think they have. This is going to sound like I'm going against what I said earlier, where they're not like people. But I think to a certain extent they have personalities, because you have some snakes that are, mean as hell. Then you have others that are super chill. And, I think that, if you breed a super chill one with a super chill one, I think you're going to get, for the most part, really chill babies. And then, if you keep doing that, they become, I mean, I don't know, like when I first had retics, they were evil, man. Like they were just straight up wanted to eat you. And now they're like, people have them like, oh, check out my retic. It's super, super chill. And
let me walk down the street.
Put it in the bathtub.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk in the French Quarter or in fucking
Yeah, I mean that's something to say as far as I have some F1 corn snakes, and they're sketchy and defensive and rattle and run away from everything. So it's like even corn snakes, but then once you get to F5 and above and all that shit, it's like you still get those some out of 20 snakes, you'll get 5 assholes and 15 really chill ones. So I mean, you still get a kind of a range.
But like you said, what's to say that's not the captivity nature versus?
Well, they did it with foxes. You know, I mean, you know, there was.
Didn't we talk about this
with Travis Wyman?
Yes, but we had issues with the variables and their select about who they were picking. Isn't that what we talked about?
Picking the most docile animals.
Yeah, but there was there's so much subjectivity in that. Isn't that what we talked about as far as like what's docile, what's that day that they're picking them out?
Breeding for what humans like, right?
So it's like the docile is subjective.
I mean, weren't dogs like that way? At one point they were wolves. And then, like, they came around your camp, you know, the fire or whatever, and they're like, okay, well, they'll feed me. And then, like, you know, it's just they slowly over time became, you know, Fido in the in your living room.
We're manipulating the animals to serve us more so, I think, than serving the animals themselves.
Well, that sounds shitty.
We're selfish people. I mean, that's human nature, I think.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. I'm hungry.
So what as far as what do you have left in your Python collection? What do you have left that you haven't checked out besides Bolin's?
To get Dunn's pythons. I don't have Dunn's pythons.
Things that are available, at least. I mean,
you can get those, but they're very difficult to get. I don't have Owen Pellies. I don't have rough scales.
Oh.
I don't have rough scales, and I don't have northern chondros. So, you know.
So that counts for you.
Yes. Yeah. I have southerns. So I deal with Meraukes or Marukis, whatever you want to call them. You know, for chondros, man, they say that they're, you know, breed these crazy, you know, beautiful snakes and all, but you can't find just somebody breeding locality chondros. I can't. If you know who somebody that's doing it, let me know.
Bushmaster, heard of him?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And then trace that back. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you don't even know if it's real. But, you know, I think of a few people that breed just locality specific, but that's what I want, and that's hard to find. So,
So does that... Are Australians a different species, or do those fall into southern?
I think right now they fall into southern, but I think when I was talking to Daniel Natouche, he kind of splits them into five groups. So it's southerns,
You're
northerns.
Fucked, man.
Yeah, I know. Southerns, northerns. BURKE is something different than Australia. He looks at it as something different.
It is really interesting because, you know, BURKE's so, you know, it's such a distinct locality than some other ones.
They are way different. I mean, if you look at a BURKE and an Aru next to each other, they're completely different snakes.
You know, for sure. Yeah, you can tell them apart.
Yeah, 100%.
Different temperaments, activities, everything. What are you going to say?
Their tails are different. Their heads are different. Everything's different.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I can say something.
What?
Totally different subject. Would you ever get a corn snake?
Me?
Yes.
I had a corn snake. I actually gave him the Owen, though. I had Okatee corn snakes.
Uh-huh.
They're pretty cool. I like them.
Everyone's had a corn snake.
Why'd you give it away?
Space. And I know Owen's on this colubrid kick. So I figure, like, we exchange things all the time. Like, we don't buy from each other. We just say, like, okay,
tradesies,
take this, and now I have this amount of credit with you, and, you know, back and forth. And, like, or if it's something that I want to know where the project is going to be, I just give it to him, and then I know where it's at. So
that makes sense. You basically, even if you give it to him, like, you still have it, kind of. It's just not at your house.
Right. Right.
Like,
So if I decided I wanted a corn snake from that pairing, they were beautiful, by the way. But like, if I decided that I want that, then I would just be like, oh, and I want a corn snake again. And just here you go. Here you go. Take these things. That's my own voice. For the love of God.
cool. I didn't know Owen was into colubrids.
I think
Oh my God, he's on a crazy
colubrid.
right? He loves that. He's like looking for pine snakes, bull snakes, corn snakes.
I got some things for him.
King snakes. Then he likes rhino rats. All those crazy.
Ooh, does he have any mandarins?
No, he doesn't. But he's looking for.
He has
I
beauty
want that.
snakes and rhinos, right? And
rhinos. Yep.
yeah, we're trying to maybe do a separate. If we could get 2 different racks going on, or even rooms going on with Asians and North American colubrids. So.
Oh, cool. That'd be cool.
But we got some really cool pine projects going on that I don't tell anyone about.
That we're supposed to be hush hush about, but.
Oh, you might want to talk to him then, because he's looking for them things. He wants them bad.
I've got.
Well, we just put them in brumation, so.
The rarest you could find.
Are they hard to find?
The ones that I have, pretty much, there's maybe like 2 or 3 a sale for a year. I mean, it took me 3 years to get a pair.
Oh shoot!
And now I got fucking 2.1, but I take them as much as I can,
Nice.
But,
that's awesome.
Wait, I don't know what that meant.
Meaning 2 males, 1 female.
Oh, okay.
But I'll breed the same lineage, male to female, because I have one of a different lineage. So I have a Vandy Venter line, aka, the guy who has a jungle line as well. But
yes.
And then I have a fucking what's that other guy's name? The scientist out of fucking Louisiana. I forget that guy's name. Starts with a G or some shit. But
so you're not breeding that. You're not breeding.
But I'm keeping those lines separate because that's probably an old man. I'll probably let him be an old man, and then I'll breed them together because they're like red and fucking. They're cool.
Nice.
I'm very interested to see their babies because they're bitch. They're such dicks.
Tame. Those are not tameable snakes at all. I mean,
but
we're about to make that argument.
But like being adults and they're that dick. Like what?
They're all dicks from
so just,
the
but are they worse? Are the babies worse even more?
I find that the pines act a lot like rattlesnakes, which makes it really predictable as far as their assholes 100% of the time do the same shit. They coil up, they rattle, they bite, which is why I think I'd like scrubs. Because even if they are dicks,
you like coiling up and rattling and biting.
Yeah, but scrubs are a lot more athletic. I can tell you that. But
you should start with a smaller scrub, like a Tannenbar. Start with one of them.
I mean, that's what I want anyway.
The day you get a scrub,
a nice bar neck.
The day you get a scrub, I get my white lips.
Yeah, they're assholes too.
White lips?
I want a white lip.
All of them. Yeah, white lips. You gotta find a tame one.
I want a white lip. Because I just feel like it goes with our olive water, like kind of our vibe with the olive and waters. I feel like they go.
Owen's trying to breed them this year.
Okay, we can do some pine white lip trades.
They're not exactly equal to equal.
No, they're not. They're not. But we'll throw something in there. I don't know.
Gold bars or something.
Beer. We got beer.
Yeah, that's all we got.
We'll steal the sickness from Bill and bring it up to Philly with us.
Well, now that you talk about it, we can't do it.
Don't worry, Owen wouldn't take the sickness. He's not a chondro.
That's true. Yeah, he wouldn't even.
Damn,
he's like the only guy I know that does not like chondros. He was just like, yeah, whatever. It's a ball python on a stick.
Well, damn, that's okay.
I love them, but then again, it's like they don't do it for me either. So it's like
chondros that you own.
Yeah, I love.
You literally have like. What do you mean it doesn't do it for me? You own it.
I don't know, Eric. Do you have any pythons that you're like, all right, well, this fits in my puzzle, but it's like not necessarily you would keep it if you could only keep a few species or a few animals.
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying. Like,
your least favorite child.
I see what you're saying. Like, to me, chondros are like one of those type of snakes. Like, they're cool. I like them, but like, I don't know if I could only pick one, it would not be a chondro.
Right.
Yeah, it would not.
It's just you don't get any behavioral cues off them at all. They're either moving or not moving 90% of the time.
Look,
they're
man,
not moving.
I don't say it I'm not saying it in a negative way, but they are kind of a
Yeah.
ball python on a stick. I mean, they sit there on a
they
stick.
but they
They're
look
beautiful looking. They look
right.
awesome, you know.
They're
and
a
that's-
diamond on a stick. Thank you. Let's correct
Okay.
that.
Well, there's diamonds.
They're a diamond on a stick.
Yeah. I probably
Nice.
would be diamond pythons would be the one that I would work with. They're probably one of
Really?
my favorites. Yeah, I really like diamond pythons a lot. They're really cool snakes.
So wait, so you're saying your chondros are your least favorite ones? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I don't know
That
if
you
I'm
know?
saying that, but yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. I mean, they're way down on the list. That's why I don't have them a lot.
Are you tending more towards Morelia like species, or like blood pythons down on the list as well? Is it more like you tend to go towards Morelia?
I used to, but now no. I mean, like really, my favorite snake probably, you know, if I could only keep one pet, it would probably be a Burmese python. They're just cool. I mean, you know, they're big, they're stupid, they're you know what I mean? They're just I don't know. I like that color, their color pattern. I like that pattern. I like the color that they have. I just think they're cool. Maybe it's
A nice
nostalgia for
granite
me.
would do it for me. Yeah, that
Granite
makes
berm?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I don't give a shit about any berms, a natural retic or a granite berm, I could do that.
You know, honestly, when it comes to retics, everybody focuses on morphs and all, and then you know they're hard to beat when it comes to that. But to me, just a regular retic they're freaking awesome, man. Like
You don't get much natural grays and yellows.
Nah, they're freaking beautiful,
especially in pythons. I know you love retics, but
even during this conversation, I thought like, damn, I just want someone to give us one for a little bit, and I want to give it back.
Want to grow them up and then send them?
Yeah, like I mean, just being around Ryan, like I really like some of his, but I'm not trying to have a big one like that.
You get real weird and real you get kind of talked over to shit when you have people that live near you, which you may not have Borneos if Matt didn't live right in your backyard. I probably wouldn't think about retics if I didn't have Ryan in my backyard holding them every day. And I'm like, fuck, there's some real shit here. Like, I really like these things, you know? Once you get that contact, you know, it's kind of over for you.
Even worse, it's the show. Like doing the show, I'm talking to somebody each week. It's like, oh man, they're really cool. And then you start researching them and you're like, what the hell? These are awesome. How did I not know about these? And then you're like, I want a pair, you know? And then you talk to the person and they're super pumped about it. And you're like, these are cool species, but I stay in my lane, my python lane. You know, I've never ventured out into boas or anything like that.
I think you have to kind of draw those lines at some point, or else you're fucking all over the place, and then your keeping gets all out of whack.
Speaking of that, and drawing lines, since your name is Theportcitypythons, we just got another comment on YouTube. As we're sitting here, I got a notification on my phone, someone being like, "Why the fuck is your name Theportcitypythons? You don't keep any pythons." Like. Everyone just shits on that.
You're EB Morelia, and you're gonna have more than Morelia, so
yeah.
Although Morelia is so much more
fraud,
so much cooler because if you have pythons, people who enjoy pythons don't care.
Yeah, if you were breaking it down into genuses, they are the coolest python. I mean, hands down. There's nothing cooler in my mind. Yeah. You know, I mean, prehensile tail, long, skinny, big head, nice scales, beautiful eyes. I mean, come on, that's everything you want. Yeah.
But the thing is, people know you as Eric from NPR, from EB Morelia. It's not like they know what his thing is because he puts his thing out there. Just like I hope they know what my thing is because I put myself out there. So if I'm Theportcitypythons, I hope they know that I have a good collection of cord snakes, which doesn't make any sense.
I'm just tired of people getting mad at.
So I'm sure Eric would, you know, Eric, how would you combat you being EB Morelia and trying to sell something that's not Morelia?
Well, I mean, everybody does some etc. stuff. I mean, if you look at my collection, the majority of my collection is Morelia. You know, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, probably maybe 60% of my collection is Morelia. So you know, but I get what you're saying. Like, and I toyed with that in the beginning. Like when you're trying to come up with a name, like what do you name it? You know, at one point I was EB Pythons, and I was like, well, why am I naming it EB? And I'm like, yeah, you know what, Morelia is my thing, you know, so I'm just gonna go with EB Morelia. It just had a better ring than EB Pythons. It was like EB Pythons. It just, I don't know, it sounded like,
no, it sounds great. And the thing is with me, I was like, oh, I never want to be one of those acronym guys because everyone is an acronym guy. So I was like, Port City Pythons, it'll be fine. But then I get out of Pythons and I'm like, fuck, I'm fucked anyway. I cornered myself anyway when I try not to corner myself.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
It's hard. Yeah. Yeah, but you're doing the podcast, so people will know what you do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then if you ever want to get Python, I mean, you have Pythons. It's not like you don't have them.
I just don't breed them well. They're just all males by accident.
We also fucked up with having them all males. So.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's the thing, man. It's hard with
girls
these
now.
Prehensile tails, as far as people probing them aren't very. It's not that reliable.
Yeah, that can be trouble sometimes. I mean, the first time I tried to breed carpets, I put them together and I didn't know anything about male combat, and holy shit, I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, you know, these two, I think they were like 8-foot carpet pythons are just like entwined, smacking each other against the, you know, the ground. I'm like, whew, you know, but you learn
it's
quick.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
So. Was it hard? I know I wasn't home when you put yours together. I just saw the pictures. Is it hard to separate them during that?
Mine were so small it isn't, but I don't know about 8, you know, coastals or anything like that.
Yeah, it was tricky. Yeah, it was tricky.
Yeah. So Eric, is there anything you'd want to get out there before we get off, as far as put your website, your Facebook page, anything like that?
My website is ebmorelia.com. For my podcast, it's moreliapythonradio.com. That's it. If you have a question or a comment, you can contact me at eric@ebmorelia.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
And if you haven't gathered by now, listen to Morelia Python Radio, because I mean, that's kind of
way better than what you're listening
it's such a big integral part of why I started this podcast, which I was listening to Reptile Radio back in the day, and then you guys picked up and then they fell off. So it's like such a big part of what we are able to do as far as taking from you guys. We try every day to not be exactly like Morelia Python Radio, but all of our friends are from Morelia Python Radio, and you guys do Morelia Python Radio a lot better than we'd ever do Morelia Python Radio. So it's like,
we're just on NPR, like we can't have them too. Like, no.
No, you guys are doing a great job, man. I listen all the time. You know,
awesome.
I think you guys are doing awesome. So
awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who's listening to us right now. Everyone on Facebook. You can visit us, portcitypythons.com. We have shirts available. Shirts available through the grapevine. And what else do we have?
Actually, I want to.
You do? Chondro motherfuckers. We got some. Okay. Keep on going.
All the shirts on the website were designed by you, and I think they're cool. One of them is just our logo. One of them is snakes and beer, because that's pretty much what we do on there. And then one of them is on the shirt, it says Chondro Snob.
Because Bill's a Chondro Snob, and that's how we came up with Chondro Snob. Because Chondro Snobs are just Chondro Snobs. They're just above everyone else.
Yeah.
That's right.
So anyone who's listening, check out the website, get some shirts.
Or a Chondro phone case, because you're a Chondro Snob.
We also do have phone cases on there with our green tree python. That's your least favorite, but it's the one.
Oh, shit, you guys got phone cases too? You are legit.
Yeah, man, it's pretty legit over here. You know, Evan's Carpet Cartel at Carpet Cartel on Facebook or whatever. Just because Evan's talking so much, I'll give him a shout out.
Evan says he should change his name to Chondro Cartel.
He should.
It does ring the same. It rings the same, but it's what he's actually working with. He has 0 carpets now.
Yeah.
Or Southern Carpet Fest Cartel, whatever you would like. Or just change it to Southern Carpet Fest Facebook group. You know. But Eric, thank you so much for being here. It's hard for us to stop this stuff because we just fucking keep on talking like crazy people. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If I didn't say that before, peace out. Thank you guys.